connection problem. Unfortunately, if I quickly swap over to gaming over here, you can see that downloading save is occurring. We definitely should have done this
oh, you know what? I think
much earlier.
I think I could have.
Yo, what's up?
I think I can send you just the save file, and you can just slap it in your save files, and that should just make it there. Let's see if I remember how to do this.
Potentially.
Let me go big brain mode here for a second. If I go here, and then I go down to where is it? Create assembly, Warhammer 3, save games multiplayer.
By the way, I'm currently listening to instructions from Sotek here for a second.
And then I copy this file
though, for now.
Okay, do you know how to get to the multiplayer campaign save file in your documents?
Multiplayer save files? It's probably in the Steam library somewhere, yeah?
So okay, if you go to...
the directory.
Just want to say cool and have a nice day.
Oh, well, thank you, Bohemian. If you go to, like, your local disk C, right? Your C drive.
Yeah.
And then you go to users.
Oh, it's in there? Okay.
Yeah, it's in a weird place.
Roger.
And then
Save
you go,
games?
and then you go to then you go app data, roaming, the creative assembly, Warhammer 3.
Oh, app data, gotcha.
Yeah, it's buried deep in there.
Let's see. Creative assembly, Warhammer 3.
Okay, and then you go down to where it says save games multiplayer.
Save games multiplayer.
And then just post that file in there.
Roger that.
And then you'll need to exit the game and boot it back up and come back into the library. But that should hopefully give you what you need.
We'll see. This. Right. Leave game. Hopefully that works, or else we have to reload the entire thing again.
Yeah.
I mean,
we could also just start over. It wouldn't be the biggest thing in the world.
We'll never finish the campaign. What is this campaign? It's so cursed.
Well, the real life things just keep dropping in from orbit. I am live on my stream, by the way. So.
Oh, okay. I am currently live as well. I had you muted in case.
Okay, you may unmute me now if you wish.
Roger. Boop.
So allow me to now reveal my IP address.
Oh god.
Hello, chat.
Also,
Good
what
morning.
was your social security number again?
Hold on, I should give you my I should give you my credit card first.
Oh yeah.
Oh goodness gracious. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Morning.
There we go. Okay. Thank goodness we have new PC, or else we would have to wait another 10 minutes for me to reopen the game.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So for those in my chat that don't know, Xero got a brand new. He got his own new Engine of the Gods. The old ones have saw fit to reward him.
Yeah. Thank you very much to all the old ones in chat. I jumped from a 1050 Ti to a 4070 Ti Super. That is a Stone Age to a modern gaming jump. From 720p 30 FPS gaming to 4K 60. Jesus.
When you go from playing Norska to playing Claw.
That's actually perfect. Okay. Multiplayer campaign, local network, please work. Oh. 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 It works.
Oh,
Let's
look
go.
at that. Sotek knows what he's doing some of the time.
Hell yeah, man. Okay.
The rare tech W for SoTech. That's a good one.
I can't believe it, man. A file that small taking that long. Impossible.
That was goofy.
And yes, definitely to everybody in chat, go and check out Neko on Twitch. The links to all my friends' channels are in the description of every video and stream that we do.
Oh, so do y'all have separate Twitch channels, but y'all use one YouTube channel?
Well, we kind of have, well, basically I created the group, The Legit Weebs. I have 2 of my friends with me officially on it, but we also have like an extra group of people who we work together with. Just our extended family, essentially.
All right. Oh man, we loaded in so fast. Wow. Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was the weakest link during our collabs, but now it should work out much better.
Oh, that's right. I was gearing up to start murdering the elves. I remember now.
Okay.
They no longer are part of the great plan.
Right of SoTech. We have armies here, here, and here. Give me 1 second while I reassess the situation that I'm currently in. Oh, is that? Who's this? Oh, it's freaking Kairos Fate Weaver already?
Well, it looks like he used his ability that lets him steal settlement to take that one. But the sooner we get into war against him, probably the better. Oh, Icket Claw's already sending like dies over here. It's not very nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What?
well, yeah, because
all the way to Lustria?
Yeah, Tehenuin has a gimmick where when you reach the 2nd stage of the, or no, when you reach the, I think it's the 3rd stage of the Prophecy of SoTech, which I'm in now, it automatically, I think it might be the 2nd stage, but anyway, Tehenuin will automatically declare war against all Skaven in the world. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. He just does because he's Tehenuin, and he's like, ah.
I see.
So he'll start sending stuff over because he might not be at war with anybody else. He might only be at war with us.
Gotcha, gotcha. Alright, yeah, super simple. I'll just take that. The faster we can squash the bird, the better.
Yeah, it just sucks we're at war with him now because he's probably going to keep using that stupid mutagenic whatever ability on us. Though actually, I think that ability's unique to no, I guess it's not. I thought that ability was unique to Village, but I guess it's not if we're being hit by it. Because I don't think we've met Village yet. Let's see, let's go around this way.
Abandon that. Silent Sanctums. Very good. Enter. Alrighty. Thank you very much for the super chat, Necromancer Cobalt.
Yeah, someone actually pointed it out correctly. Not only do I declare war on all the Skaven, I make all Lizardmen declare war on all Skaven, so if you look at your diplomacy, you'll notice you're also at war with all the Skaven.
Oh, lovely!
Because Tehenuin incites race wars. That's what he does. Let's make this give me more money.
So, chat wants me to ask you about the lore behind Helman Gorst. I had recently learned about his mechanics and the stuff that he does with his Mortis engine effect, but I also believe he only has like 1 or 2 lines in the actual lore. But somehow he made it into the game.
He has, canonically, 2 paragraphs.
2 paragraphs.
That's it.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's so much. Yeah, and he dies in the very same story he originally appears in.
But then why is he such a menace in the game? How did he end up in Total War Warhammer?
Ain't that the greatest mystery of all? I can auto resolve this, is fine. So, what happened was that way back, way back at the very start of Warhammer, the video game, we had a situation where Creative Assembly made this brand new game, and ultimately, they did not have a ton of faith that the game was gonna like do super well. They were
Really?
Yeah, because it was so different from anything they'd done before, right? You know, this was a company that had only made historical games. Getting invested into like a whole brand new market, essentially. And so because of that, they were dealing with the difficulty of like how much do we want to invest in this project, and this led to situations where that's why like the siege system, like you think sieges are bad now, they were way worse back then as far as like interesting. Like,
oh yeah,
they were terrible. And a lot of the issues that we have right now in this game with like the siege system or the diplomacy system being too basic are because Warhammer 1 had way too basic of a siege and diplomacy system, because they basically were focusing on trying to make the battles fun, and they left everything else to be super duper bare bones because they didn't want to invest that heavily in it, because they weren't sure if the game was going to be popular. And so as far as what happened with Gorst goes, when they made the game, they already started working, you know, essentially in the first DLC really early. The first true DLC, I should say, because technically the Warriors of Chaos were a pre-order DLC, but that's not really the same thing.
Okay.
So the very first DLC that was after the game came out was Helman Gorst, which was The Grim and the Grave. And this was a really unfortunate circumstance where basically the guys at CA just didn't know that much about the Warhammer world yet, and they were kind of just doing whatever like Games Workshop recommended. And like I said, their ambitions just weren't that high, so they went to Games Workshop and they were like, hey, we need to do like a game, or we need to do an expansion on this game. Do you have any recommendations on like 2 characters versus each other, and maybe we could do like some like specialized units for each side along with DLC units? And Games Workshop was like, all right, well, here's like, you know, here's what Regiments of Renown are, and here's this other stuff, yada yada yada. And this led to Games Workshop essentially giving them a book that was called the book was called Sigmar's Blood. And Sigmar's Blood was essentially the prequel to the End Times, but it featured a storyline of Volkmar the Grim versus Manfred von Karstein, which, you know, fine. It even standardized how many Regiments of Renown we got for each side, which I think back then was like 6 or something like that. Because in Sigmar's Blood, it was a very small, contained campaign where you basically got, like, it basically gave you, like, only, like, 6 or something, whatever, I forget how many, but however many units, both sides got the exact same amount of units, because it was, despite the fact it was, like, a prequel to the End Times, it was kind of designed as, like, a weird starter set campaign, because it was basically meant that you and a friend could pick it up, and you only would buy the units that featured in the book, and it kind of, like, told you a lot about the units. Like, they all had their own little side section that had, like, 2 to 3 paragraphs on each unit that were like, oh, here's who these guys are, and yada yada yada. So you're like, oh, these are the guys that I'm building right now, and stuff like that. So you were kind of playing along with the story. And both sides featured a character along with Volkmar the Grim and Manfred, which for Volkmar there was a witch hunter character, and for Manfred there was a necromancer on corpse cart, which was Helman Gorst.
Oh.
And so
okay.
when Creative Assembly adapted Sigmar's Blood, they ran into the genuinely small issue. Speaking of the devil,
yeah, right. I was about to say. Oh shit. Okay.
Oh, we about to fight? Oh, okay. I was like, let's fight him. But when they were adapting it, they ran into one small little issue, which was that because they were just literally doing the book as is, and their goal was to do one legendary lord per side, as well as like the regiments of renown and the new lords and stuff. They were looking at it, and it was, of course, Manfred von Karstein versus Volkmar the Grim. But Manfred was already in the game. Manfred von Karstein being the main big bad for the vampire counts. So they couldn't do Manfred again, so they needed to do somebody else. And unfortunately, they, like I said, they just didn't, at the time, they just didn't know the setting very well. And so instead of doing what they should have done, which is pull from the incredibly large list of famous vampire count characters who all would have made for fantastic legendary lords, they instead decided to just pull the only other vampire character from that particular book, which was Helman Gorst. And so despite the fact that he had basically no lore, he did not have a unique miniature, he didn't have any unique art, there was literally nothing unique about him. He was very basic. They slapped him in the game as one of the headlining characters for the Vampire Count faction, and then ironically alongside the DLC you got Vlad von Karstein, the most famous vampire count ever, as the free LC Lord. When what they could have done is they could have just made Vlad the DLC Lord and then had the free LC Lord be another famous vampire count character. It was a whole thing. Well, I could say with a small amount of pride that I have I have had two different like lead directors at Creative Assembly personally apologize to me on behalf of CA for the Helman Gorst incident. But I will admit that since then, he's actually become a pretty okay character. Like Creative Assembly, he was trash when he first got put in the game, but he got expanded considerably, and has become so much better over the years, even though I still hate him. Not as much though. It's very frustrating that he took the slot away from like what could have been a really, really cool character. Like honestly, it should have been the Doom Lord of Middenheim.
Who's that?
That is a character called Dieter Hellschnitt, and he is a very, very well established necromancer character. So he would have been just like Gorst in that he's a necromancer, but his gimmick is that he has two things that are really famous about him. The first is that despite being a necromancer, he rides on a manticore. So he rides a big monstrous creature, though whether the manticore is undead or not depends on sources. Most sources agree it's not an undead manticore, but he rides it anyway because he's a badass. And the other big thing about him is that actually there's a couple of interesting things about him, but a really funny thing about him is that he has an obsession with eating people's brains.
Lovely.
Especially other necromancers, because he believes that by eating their brains, he will learn all the secrets of necromancy that they've figured out so far. So there's several like short stories and little things that have him featured as a character, and he's a mix of terrifying but also kind of hilarious, because like all of his necromancers will be leading his armies and they'll notice him like staring at them drooling, and they're like, ugh, and like have to make sure they don't screw up doing their job, because if they mess up, he'll just use it as an excuse to eat them.
Oh my god. Funny and terrifying at the same time. I think that's what Thankful kind of wants to be, but just can't.
No, it's what Thankful doesn't want to be funny. He just is. Poor Thankful's out there like, put respect on my name, and everyone's like, oh, he's so cute. What a funny little rat man.
Oh, nice. Yeah, sure. Time to abandon ship over here. Oh my god. Hey, give me 1 second. Jumping to and fro on the map
You're all good.
to find what I need to build is a lot.
I'm doing some managerial stuff over here, so that's totally fine. The Trickster Shard. Ugh. I hate how bad some items in this game are.
I've heard the Trickster Shard is just not too good, but I don't really understand reading any of the stat lines and whatnot.
Well,
That's
so
generally speaking,
generally speaking, like the Trickster Shard isn't useless. It's just not great. Like it's like, oh, it lowers your chance of miscasting. Well, that could be pretty okay if you're like playing a character that likes to overcast a lot. Because you're less likely to blow up and hurt yourself. But its ability is that you can target enemy characters with an aura that makes them 100% more likely to miscast, which won't necessarily guarantee they miscast because they may have their own buffs going on that lower their chance of miscasting, which can cancel it out.
I see.
But like it can be useful, technically speaking, if you target someone with it and then they try and cast a spell, like a regular spell, because it makes it very likely that they'll miscast, which is just a good way to ping them for damage. But against the AI, it's basically useless.
Yeah, I mean, I've very rarely ever seen any characters miscast. Like, even my own characters using them. Maybe I just haven't used them enough, but... Power flies... Yeah... I don't think I'm gonna be getting this mission against Mr. Festus, the Leech Lord, done. He has 3 armies and a garrison, and he's just sitting there waiting.
He knows somebody's coming for him. Oh, damn it, I contracted the Skaven plague. Gross.
Ah, lovely.
Gross!
Happens all the time. I see. Yeah, I never really overcast spells. That is true. Usually don't see the need to. Oh wait, did I not teleport? Go! Teleport's a little bit buggy. There we go.
This is for 5 turns. Ugh. If Tarmakon fought Greasus instead of Break Mountain, would he have won?
I'll probably have to spend a few turns dealing with the Flaming Chicken Man's forces over here on the right.
I feel pretty confident that from a lore standpoint, Tarmakon would have died.
Salt? Salt is never really that great, was it? Or a geomantic pylon. A lot of money? Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Bilefoot, why are the fishmen the truest inheritors of Malice? Because they were here first. They were here first.
But we need the big dinos. Oh, actually, Mr. Sotek.
Yeah.
Do you have need of money?
I mean, I won't say no to money.
I have 56,000 gold.
Oh,
if you want some of that.
Oh yeah, I would love some money.
I completely forgot. Yeah, I can just like make a deal with you, and then just make it completely one-sided.
Yeah. I'll take funds.
There we go. Payments, offer, generous gift of 4,000 gold. Wow, that's really digging deep. Can I don't think I can even like set the amount of gold to give. Yeah, I can just like select a particular size.
I think when you're giving a gift, that is correct. I think if you do,
Like
hold on, send me an hold on, let me finagle with it. I think if I do...
Oh, Sotek has to be the one to ask. I see.
Ah, okay. How much do you want to send?
I could send you like half, like 25 or 30.
Yeah,
I'm really not using this for anything.
I demand 28,000 gold for nothing.
Yeah, sure, man. It's like nothing to me. Unless the Odal just has a ton of money. But
to
like,
anyone coming by with a collection plate for Sotek.
As an offering to the gods, yes.
It should show up in your alerts.
Oh, there it is. I see. You have to manually take a look. You want 28,000 for nothing?
And one.
Sure.
And one.
Oh, one too.
Ooh, lovely. This will let me max out a lot of my settlements.
Very nice. Yeah, you go deal with that Skaven problem. Yeah, that should be good.
Have you built a what do you call it? The ally thingy over here.
An outpost?
Yeah.
I did build an outpost over on your side. I forget where it is. Let me check.
Yeah, if you have it upgraded, you'll get access to all the units I'm unlocking through like my buildings. So if there are units that you want, you can get them through that way.
Oh yeah, I have it in Oixel. It's already a tier 31.
Okay, perfect. That's all you need.
Nice.
Alright, next turn I should wipe out the Vampire Coast.
Dang, already?
Shut up, Inquisitor Thomas. You bastard.
I mean, in lore, Luther goes around searching for artifacts and stuff from the Lizardmen in order to cure his condition, but does he know that there's actually anything there that can actually cure it? Or is it just a whim?
And whether or not he's actually... so, he does not know if there's anything that'll actually help him. Why is my campaign movement so bad? God.
No. Oh no!
I forget how awful the zombie marshes are. Ugh.
Oh, you mean how far you can go? Yeah.
Actually, this isn't the zombie marshes, but Jungle of Webs, that's what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. But, yeah, Harkin, depending on the author, the idea of him, like, trying to put himself back together was a rather recent thing from Total War, though I think it works really well for him as a character. So, like, I like it a lot. But he is very much, I mean, he's very heavily insane, but he does desire a lot of power, that he's trying to kind of steal from the Lizardmen to enhance himself in various ways.
So it's more an aspect of gathering more power rather than the fixing himself that Total War kind of went with.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue, a lot of his lore is really old, like really old. So he was in pretty desperate need of an update because he only showed up as a background character essentially. He got his kind of like, oh look, it's Luther Harkin big moment in a really old White Dwarf article that gave you like the full rules for playing the Vampire Ghost.
Yeah.
And then it was basically never touched ever again. And he would just show up as like a fun side character in the Lizardmen and Dark Elf books, and that was it. Like in 8th edition, the most recent books actually had Luther Harkin getting captured by the Lizardmen, like I want to say like 10 or 15 years before the end times. So like he's basically removed as a player from the global stage in 8th edition because the Lizardmen capture him due to Marathi being an absolute asshole and betraying him, but that's because Marathi does Marathi things.
Oh no!
And then he inexplicably got a prison break, and whatever, that's fine. And appeared in the end times as one of Nagash's Mortarks. All right, the awakened Luther Harkin's faction is dead.
Very nice. Looks like the conquering of Lustria is going very well.
Yeah, I'm being pretty aggressive about it, but that's because it'll all pay off.
Wasn't Luther one of Nagash's main admirals? I mean, from what I know,
he became in the end
what I learned, anyways.
Yeah, he became one of the Mortarks of Nagash. He was the Mortarks are the 9. They're the 9 like great generals / lieutenants of Nagash. So Luther Harkin ended up becoming the Mortark of the Abyss.
Gotcha. I think there was also a whole thing too about Luther just gaining a massive fleet during the end times, kind of out of nowhere. Although I feel like he probably amassed a bunch in the time that he was just staying over Vampire Coast because of how I believe the currents just kind of bring anything that wrecks straight.
Oh yeah, he had it's completely like not at all surprising that he would have had an absolutely massive fleet by the end times. I mean, he had been there for hundreds of years by that point.
Let's see. Chan wants to know if you can make any Warhammer game from any setting, what would it be? That's a very broad question. I have no idea where to start, to be honest.
My go-to will always be that I would make a really hardcore, like, Witcher 3 type game about Gotrek and Felix.
Yo, that would actually be pretty sick.
I would lean super heavy into that. Because it would have really fun storytelling and like there's a lot you'd be able to do with it. And I think it would make for a really fun experience.
Speaking of Gotrek and Felix, do they have any dedicated games for them? Because I feel like their story... No?
Nope. They show up in a lot of games, but they don't, because Games Workshop doesn't give a shit about fantasy 90% of the time. GW tends to be pretty aggressive about they will only support 40k games and not fantasy games, unless the only reason they'll usually support fantasy is because there is a studio or group or company or whatever that like aggressively pushes for making a fantasy game, like Total War did. Like Total War did not want to make a 40k game; they really wanted to make a fantasy game.
I see. I mean, that's awesome. It's kind of a really cool way to experience the world of fantasy, but still, like, there's so much potential hidden in fantasy, and I feel like it's pretty obvious, but I don't know.
Who would you play as in the game? I would probably have it be a game where you switch perspectives depending on situations. So, like, you can play... I think it'd be fun as you could design it as a couch co-op game where you and a friend could play as Gotrek and Felix.
Yeah.
And, like, they have different things that they're good at. And then if you're playing it single player, you're able to switch between the two as needs arise. But, like, a lot of the... If you're telling a Gotrek and Felix story, a lot of the time your perspective, so to speak, is going to be from Felix's perspective. But there's still a lot of really fun stuff.
It's because Felix is the one, like, recording the entire story?
Yeah, it's technically Felix telling the story about the two of them. And Felix is... Whenever you read a Gotrek and Felix book, the rule, like the law, from a writer's perspective, is you're never allowed to write from Gotrek's perspective. You could write from anyone else's perspective, except Gotrek's.
Is there a particular reason for that?
It has to do with that the story is meant to kind of act as a grounding of sorts for the Warhammer world. So, like, it allows you to explore and understand the Warhammer world, which means that you need a human perspective, not a dwarf perspective. And also, a lot of aspects of Gotrek is that he's supposed to be very kind of mysterious, because there's the whole aspect of, like, he kind of comes off like there's something... There's always a lot of mysteries surrounding Gotrek about, like, what his past is, what was the horrible thing that he did that made him a slayer. Like, there was a whole bunch of mysteries about him that end up getting revealed in the end times. But before the end times, it was pretty much a golden rule that you weren't supposed to reveal any of those things.
Gotcha. I see. Oh, this is certainly going to be interesting. Thank you for the super chat, Hammond. Ask about corn warriors chopping their big D off.
That is not a thing. Oh, well, okay. No, that is technically a thing.
Oh god.
There's an event you can get in Total War if you're playing as Khorne. You can get an event where I can't remember how it's worded, but it's like Slaanesh is like influencing the people of your nation, and basically your guys can like reject his influence by castrating themselves.
Oh no.
Because Khorne. Bro has no chill.
Hardcore, man. Yeah. These guys. I'll go back for him later.
Actually, do I have any good blessed units?
What is this? Hammond also wants me to ask you about his friend's Skaven tabletop blunder versus his Stegodon stack from back in the day. What happened?
Oh, that's a good story, man. So back in my tabletop days, I had a really good friend who, if people are ever around on my channel, they might see him from time to time, named Jacob, and we played a lot of Warhammer Fantasy together. And his main army was Skaven originally, and mine, of course, was Lizardmen for my entire life. But there was an incident where we were playing a game once where he tried a really risky maneuver that, if to his credit, if it had worked, would have been amazing. Which is that there was a spell called Skitter Leap, which of course is in game. Though I think now only the Eshin sorcerers have it. But Skitter Leap was a really classic Skaven spell where if you had an infantry sized character, he could functionally teleport himself within like anywhere on the table within a certain distance. And so what he did was, I was running an army, like pretty much an all Stegodon army, just to have fun with it. So I was running so I was running, I think I had like 2 Stegodons, an Engine of the Gods, and I had Lord Mazdamundi on his big old Stegodon. So what my friend did was that my Stegodons were all moving across the map in a big line towards his army, because I knew if I got the charge off, I would just obliterate him. because Stegodons are pretty solid, and Skaven are the opposite of pretty solid. So
yeah.
I prepared to run across the map and smash him, and so his his response was that he had Skitterleap on his wizard, and he used Skitterleap to teleport his wizard so that he was on the flank of one of my big Stegodon line. And then he used one of his the other spell that he had on that Grey Seer. It was a Grey Seer, so a level 4 wizard, pretty good wizard. So the next thing that he used was that he had a spell called Crack's Call. And Crack's Call, which is also in Total War on the Ruin spell list, the way it worked is that you would draw a line, and everything on that line had to roll a d6, and if you rolled lower, if you rolled higher than your initiative stat.
Yeah, that does a ton of damage.
Oh yeah, in Tabletop it was super scary, because if you rolled higher than your initiative, which for Lizardmen, our initiative is absolute garbage. It is not good. It is very, very bad. It's usually like 1 or 2. If you rolled higher than your initiative, the model just instantly died. So he Skitterleaps next to me, and by the time I realize what he's doing, it's like, oh no, like I'm not in a great position to stop him. And he casts Crack's Call, and because I had Lord Mazdamundi, who's a really powerful wizard, he throws all of his power dice at it and miscasts. So his wizard basically. Well, so in that edition of Warhammer, miscasting also means that the spell went off irresistibly. So basically, I can't stop the spell from going off, but it also has a negative effect. In this case, I think his wizard blew up. So the wizard blows up, but he did successfully cast the spell, which means I'm in trouble. So he throws the Crack's Call down my Stegodon line. And this is pretty much a guaranteed insta-kill for my Stegodons, because their initiative is butts. So I have 4 Stegodons, and I go to roll, and despite the fact that my initiative, the initiative I was rolling on was like a 2, I think, for like a 2 or a 3 for all 4 of them, I only failed one of the rolls, and it was on a common Stegodon. So like Mazdamundi, I think, needed a 1, but I rolled a 1. So he went for this crazy over-the-top play that probably shouldn't have worked, but when he got it off, it should have basically been like a complete wipe for my army. But then when he actually rolled the dice to deal the damage, it just whiffed. So that left his army without a wizard, without a general, with my entire Stegodon force about like 5 inches away.
Oh, well, that backfired splendidly. And of course it had to be the Skaven, too.
Oh, yeah.
Just normal Skaven things.
Yeah, I saw many hilarious incidents involving Skaven in my time. I remember one time there was a Skaven player who was doing pretty well, and he had, I think he had 3 Warp Lightning Cannons, which was a lot. And he had a turn where he was like, all right, I'm gonna, he had this big firing line, and then he went to shoot one of his Warp Lightning Cannons, and he rolled a misfire. And the Skaven had a very unique set of misfire results, because for classic units, if you misfired, it was like, oh, you roll a d6, and on a 1 to 2, the War Machine is destroyed. On a 3 to 4, you can't shoot this turn or next turn. And on a 5-6, you just don't shoot this turn. It was very simple. The Skaven had fucking weird misfire results. And so they rolled one result.
Of course, as they do.
The result he rolled for the Warp Lightning Cannons was that it spins around in place, and you roll the scatter die to see what direction it ends up shooting in. So it shoots in a random direction at maximum strength. So it spins around and ends up shooting down the War Machine line and just obliterates every single Skaven War Machine that's in the line. Just kills everyone.
It's just so Skaven, man.
Yeah, which at that
You can't
point,
imagine anybody else doing that.
it's like at that point, like the game was literally just over because there was nothing he had just wiped out his own line, so there was nothing. It's like, all right, well, there's nothing I can do at this point.
Okay, I think I'm going to shift my teleport point away from Lustria.
That's fine.
And then I'll use it to help conquer here. I think you've got that side in the bag, pretty sure.
I would say we have this under control.
Yeesh. Let's try that. It's fine. Ask about Snorri? I feel like we've talked about Snorri before at some point, didn't we? During like the very first stream.
Snorri Nosebiter? Maybe.
Maybe.
He's basically just Gotrek's friend. He's a fun character. I wouldn't say there's I wouldn't say there's a lot to say about him. He's just a fun character.
I see. Gotcha. I feel like I've heard. Oh yeah, he's probably another dwarf. Yeah. I'm gonna spit. Okay.
Do you know when Lizardmen get a rework? I have no idea. Hopefully, relatively soon.
Ask about the various vampire bloodlines. We also talked about that actually, I believe, last stream, which was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Something about Greasus or another famous ogre.
Oh.
Random lore fact about Greasus.
The gash is magic.
Probably the biggest random thing that not a lot of people know about Greasus
How
is
he
that
would improve Mazdamundi. Well, I feel like Mazdamundi does need a rework, kind of like Empire level rework. Honestly, the Lizardmen kind of do.
Yeah, I would say the Lizardmen
how would you go
in general.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that?
Because the commandments
is Andy
is probably
worshiping?
my
Apparently,
first
Andy's feeling much better.
Like they're really
Andy's feeling much
lackluster,
better,
and I have to build a whole.
Because he's supposed to stream today.
A geomantic pylon that doesn't really do too much for me, apart from improve a mediocre commandment.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I would do for the Lizardmen is that I would rework the geomantic web system to make it actually really powerful to like heavily reward players for investing into it. Where not only like I like the improving of the commandments. That's good. That's great. It's not like exciting, but it can be quite powerful if you use it correctly, and it offers like a lot of really cool, nice incentives. So that's fine. What I would change though is that I would add additional bonuses to reward you for making the web powerful and fighting to defend it. So I would say if you're in a province. So most of the time you're going to be at level 1 or level 2, which shouldn't really give you anything. But I would say if you're at level 3, you basically gain access to army abilities for each level above that. So if you're like a level 3 version, you should get like a bound casting of like you should get like bound spells on your lord for like Forked Lightning or Uranus Thunderbolt or whatever the Thunderbolt spell is. But like you should get like, oh, you get to cast some free magic. Which like cool, fine, whatever. But then like when you get to level 4 and level 5, that's when things should start to get like really fun and spicy. So like for level 4, I would probably make it where like you get an army version to represent like geomancy. Maybe you get an army version of Mazdamundi's like Ruination of Cities. You get like a free cast of that as an army ability. So like you get to, and that's just for any army that's fighting in a level 4 geomantic web province. So you get to just smack down free Ruinations of Cities on your enemy as an army ability. So it's got like infinite range across the map. That could be really, really good. And then at tier 5, I would make it where you get the Lore of Heaven's Cataclysm spell. The giant lightning storm where you shoot, like, it's like a shit ton of lightning bolts obliterate an area. But, like, I would do where you get, like, really, really powerful army abilities if you're fighting at an appropriate level. And then there's, of course, like, Krokgar. I would say definitely that Krokgar, Gorok, Well, maybe I don't know about Gorok necessarily, but I would at minimum say that Krokgar and Mazdamundi definitely need some extra little oomph for their campaign mechanics. I could see the argument for Gorok and Tic-Tac-Toe as well. Like, I think Tehennawin's mostly fine. Oxyodal's fine. Nakai's fine. Like, they have very unique campaigns. Where you're
for sure.
You have a lot
they
of
just
really
need a little bit of buffs here and there.
Yeah.
I would say.
It's like, you know, I would love for them to do some fun things like, oh, we're gonna make, you know, Oxyodal's campaign more impactful and more meaningful. You know, where he's got like, it feels a little bit more like a true XCOM experience, and maybe we add a couple of little incentives to Nakai and Tehennawin. But, like, they overall don't really need any significant changes. But, like, Krokgar is powerful, but he doesn't have anything really fun going on. And Mazdamundi's the same, where he's quite strong, but is not very exciting. But I would not be surprised if after the Empire update, CA kind of takes another look at a lot of their wizards across the game to make sure they're all like appropriately powerful. Because like the Empire wizards now have a lot of really fun mechanics that can make them really, really strong, whereas a lot of the other factions that are like the wizards for like the High Elves, the Dark Elves, and the Slann can be quite good. Ooh, I am not gonna call you in to help on this one.
What is going on?
I am attacking the High Elves.
Ah, I see.
I don't know why it thought I had a tree with them. Pretty sure I didn't, but whatever, it's fine. Gotcha. It's fine. My reliability will come back up later. Let's do.
I mean, we are kind of on an annihilation route, so reliability, eh.
Well, no, but reliability is important when you're trying to confederate the other Lizardmen factions. They get awfully stingy. Yeah. They get very upsetty spaghetti if you're not reliable.
Upsetty spaghetti, gotcha. I've had problems with Tic-Tac-Toe before because he gets so incredibly powerful in my campaigns that he doesn't really want to confederate. He just kind of scoffs at you a little bit.
Yeah, generally when you're dealing with Tic-Tac-Toe, you kind of have to try and time it for when the biggest thing is that if you want to manipulate the AI into helping you with things, the most important thing on average is to trade them settlements in exchange for various things. Settlement trading is the most powerful thing you've got going for you, which the most important feature when it comes to settlement trading is to make sure that you are trading settlements where you've built military buildings in, because military buildings, the AI like highly values those.
They love them, man. Like the negotiation score goes up so incredibly high just from one dinky building that takes a turn to build.
Yeah, it's so using those to get like optimal, like all of the alliance stuff unlocked is good, and then you follow up with when you're trying to confederate them, you want to try and make sure they're fighting somebody, which if you have a defensive or military alliance, you can usually reasonably reliably kind of force them into fighting somebody that's nearby that'll be like nasty and problematic for them. And then for your confederation, you want to try and time it with them getting their ass kicked by somebody. So like their main army gets obliterated and their military score goes like way down, and that's when you want to swoop in and try and confederate.
I see. Yeah, whenever their strength rank goes way down, they're very willing to recruit out to join up with you. But unless if you're keeping your eye on it, sometimes you miss it.
Yeah, well, like, a good strategy could be, like, if they're running any armies that are not led by their legendary lord, you can use the alliance system to ask them, or to take control of those armies and then just, like, intentionally get them killed. Just throw them into something that murders them really fast.
Bruh. Would that make us traitorous lizards?
They don't need to know the truth. You just come to them and say, oh no, we were attacked and something terrible happened and all your guys got killed. It was a horrible tragedy.
It makes me think about, like, the first time we talked about the Lizardmen, of them being, like, just hodlers attempting to achieve a great plan that they have no understanding of.
Yep. Oh, okay, you ready for a fun battle? Here we go.
All right.
We're gonna purge the elves from Lustria.
Also, it looks like chat says that Teehee over here starts off with a non-aggression pact, which was the reason for the weirdness thing.
Oh, I must have canceled it 2 weeks ago and forgot when I canceled it. But whatever, I've decided I'm gonna kill the elves now.
Alright, let's see here. Oh, well, now that we're attacking elves, Helman wants to know about his childhood friend who loved high elves and tabletop. Are there any funny stories?
Yes. Yeah, there are a lot. I had a buddy who played high elves back then, who was actually, like, got into Warhammer very quickly after I did. Hey, I developed a hatred of high elves over those years, because I had to fight them so often. The big thing was that, I'm trying to think of, like, the best instance. Let's see. I'm gonna give you control.
There's too many to count.
I'm gonna give you control of these guys. If you kind of want to start with them, like, over here, and then as the enemy gets close, kind of move around their flank and just shoot them in the back constantly.
Roger that.
Though don't get too close to them at the start, because I have the ability to summon Sotek to the battlefield, so I'm gonna open with that on them. And you don't want to be in the way of that, because it will kill anyone in the way.
Gotcha. I think that was massively buffed from Warhammer 2 to 3, right? Does it now wipe out units?
No, like, it's about the same level of power, but it became a lot more viable as an ability in this game, especially after the siege rework. Because the old system was that if you were fighting in a siege battle, because the siege was like 95% wall, it wasn't ever able to get in, like, because it's a wind spell, it'll bounce off walls. So because the AI would just sit on the walls the entire battle, it was literally useless. So it was only good in, like, specific circumstances. Whereas now, because the sieges are a lot more, like, dynamic and there's a lot of open spaces and really big lanes, it's way, way, way better. It's not a perfect wind spell. It is really strong and it hits like a truck, but because of the way it's designed as a wind spell, it doesn't really do any damage to, like, single entities, or, like, and it's also not as very good against, like, monstrous infantry and monstrous cavalry. But anything smaller than that, it will just wipe them off the face of the earth if it gets a half-decent hit.
Okay, cool.
So what we're hoping is that he's gonna mostly just stand in a big fucking line, and not try to dodge it. So my goal is that I'm gonna get close enough to where he's like, oh, I need to attack. And I'm gonna wait for him to kind of get within shooting range. And then once he's in shooting range, I'll know that he's gonna hold still.
Ooh. The gods abandon us, say the elves. After getting hit by one bullet? Okay. Well, I mean, it is a solar engine. That would probably hurt a lot.
I think I can get this line of archers without him moving, but let's find out. Here he comes!
Right, let's see this. Oh my god!
Delicious.
Oh, Jesus!
Alright, now we kill
Oh
everyone.
my god!
Such is the power of Sotek!
Dang. Yeah, it's time to become a Sotek believer, everybody. Either that or die.
Those are typically the options.
Alright. Wait. You were in a Warhammer movie?
Oh, yeah. It was a fan film, but yes. There's a movie on YouTube. There's a movie on YouTube you can watch called it's called Chaos Rising. And
Chaos Rising.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's very gory, which is half the fun. But yeah, it's a fun little movie about like a Norscan invasion of Brettonian. And I did a lot to help support the movie financially, and did a lot of promotion and stuff for them. So I went out there and had a cameo part in it. It was super fucking fun.
Nice.
It was also gave me an excuse to go to Scotland, which I'm really, really glad I did, because Scotland is freaking gorgeous.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like some of my subs have suggested I react to that a long time ago.
It's a good time. It's a good time. It's very over the top. Like it's
oh, I mean, it's a Warhammer.
Yeah, it's borderline goofy, but I love it.
Gotcha. Okay. That'll be cool. Can a human become a Sotek believer? Well, I don't know if Teehee's cool with anybody else that's not a skink
Teehee.
or lizardman.
What is he, an anime character? Put some respect on his name. I mean, could a human theoretically worship Sotek? Absolutely. Like, yes, undeniably. Would the Lizardmen view that as like a reason not to sacrifice them or whatever? That's probably a little more on the doubtful side of things.
Okay.
That being said,
I get you.
there was a Slon known as the World Walker, who's a vaguely hilarious character, because he became convinced that what the Lizardmen needed to do was to like proselytize about Sotek. So he basically loaded up like a ton of equipment with his army, and he just leaves Lustria. Like he's just like, all right, I'm gonna go spread the great word of Sotek to all the warm bloods, and he just leaves.
Okay.
And all the other Slon are like, I don't think that's gonna go well. And he's like, well, I don't care, I'm going anyway. So the Slon just kind of are like, all right, dude, see ya, I guess. And he's just never heard from again.
What?
Yeah, so we have like...
Never again in lore?
Nope, so we have no idea where exactly he went, and we also don't know what exactly happened to him. He just kind of vanishes. But the way it's portrayed from this other Slon's perspective is quite funny, because they essentially just kind of let him go, because they can't force him not to go. But the Slon are basically universally like, yeah, he's gonna die, but, you know, whatever, I guess.
But he's a Slon mage. They're supposed to be super powerful and know all about the Great Plan.
But I mean, the world's a dangerous place. Yeah, he leaves with a ton of like temple guard and stuff too. He leaves with like a giant army. My favorite part about him is that he was practical enough that he takes a bunch of the stone chairs that the Slon float around in. Those are they're called the Thrones of the Old Ones. Or Thrones, because he was a practical Slon, despite his interesting takes on how the Lizardmen can save the world, he took like a bunch of extra chairs because he figured that at some point his would probably get damaged, either by battle or by like just wear and tear or whatever. So I think it's like he takes like dozens of extra thrones to follow him around. So he had like a baggage train of these floating stone chairs, which is just super funny to think about. Oh, their general is unbreakable. That's interesting.
Oh, that's why the fight hasn't ended. Where is he? Oh, there he is.
He's getting his face smashed in
He's
by
mosh-pitting.
Helman Gorst.
There's so much blood. Oh my god. Well, this is probably gonna be a while.
It'll take a second.
Yeah.
But hey, that's fine. That means I just get free healing.
Oh yeah. Ask Sotek about Shakax. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, so Chakax is one of if we get another legendary hero for the Lizardmen, which hopefully we will, he is who they're gonna do.
Yes, please.
Which Chakax
Okay.
is the Temple Guard special character. And he has one of the most badass designs in the entire Lizardman range. Like, he is so fucking cool looking. And his whole gimmick is that he just doesn't lose. Like, a Slann, no Slann that he has been in charge of protecting has ever died.
Oh.
And like
greatest bodyguard in existence, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he is. Like, he is legit the best bodyguard character in the setting, which is saying a lot because there's quite a few of them. But like, he literally 1v1s a greater demon of Slaanesh, and he obliterates it.
What?
He also fights.
He's just built different, man.
Yeah, he also, in the end times, he goes up against Clan Eshin, where Clan Eshin sends like their 12 greatest assassins just below Deathmaster Snitch to kill a Slann Mage Priest, and 11 of them. So the first, the top guy is Deathmaster Snitch, and then the guy just below Deathmaster Snitch, who is supposed to go with the others, decides that he's going to go off by himself and do a sneaky way to get to this other Slann, or to this Slann, by taking an alternate route by like climbing up the outside of a building. But he gets found by but Oxiodal kills him, so he gets in like an assassin duel with Oxiodal and gets killed. And the other 11 try to all get past Chakax simultaneously. So like, they all attack and or try to dodge past him at the same time, and he kills all of them. And he also takes a Weeping Blade to the chest, which in the lore, the Weeping Blades of Clan Eshin are like, if you get even slightly cut by one, you're dead. Like, you're just gonna die. Because the poison is like so intense, because not only is it poison, but it's also like heavily enchanted with runes of like decay and death and ruin and all this stuff. And Chakax takes like, one gets fully impaled into his chest, and Chakax like doesn't even notice. Like, he just walks it off.
Just but a flesh wound.
Because he's fucking Chakax.
Then came out of the spawning pools built different. I need to go and search up this guy later. That's awesome. It would be super cool to get more Lizardman characters, like, whenever they inevitably, hopefully, get their update to their mechanics and stuff. That would be nice.
Yeah, the only two important characters we're still missing are Chakax and Tedoeko.
Tedoeko?
Yeah, Tedoeko is the skink priest character. And he's a really old, elderly skink man. He is the oldest looking skink ever. Like, he just looks old. And he...
How does the skink look old?
Because, well, most skinks only live to about 100 years old, and then they'll die of old age. The exception being Tehinuin, because Tehinuin is not mortal. He's something else. Because of his whole Sotek's business. So...
yeah.
Tedoeko is just a really old man skink. Like, he's very wrinkly, and he's just this shriveled little skink. And he doesn't walk around so good anymore. But after he obliterated a bunch of greenskins and used some really clever tactics on that end, he was awarded his own Throne of Power, which are the things the Slann scoot around on. So he's a skink that rides on a palanquin. And he is one of the best Lord of Heavens casters in the game, or in the setting. So like, his whole thing is he likes throwing meteors at people.
Awesome.
Also there, I sent you a picture of Chakax, because he's my favorite boy.
Nice. Let me check. Oh, I see. When I search up Lizardmen, I've seen some images of this guy. Or maybe this particular image too.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. He's got like some of the best art.
Boop.
Chalkox was hilarious in Tabletop. His rules were so busted that he was able to fight characters that were significantly better than him. But only if you were in a challenge. But he was very good at kind of forcing characters into challenges. Because if he was in a challenge, he had an item that would like slow down time around him, essentially. So even though he was really, really slow, the item would make the enemy also insanely slow. So instead of it, because normally in the rules it'd be like, oh, if you're wielding like a great weapon, like a big two-handed weapon like Chalkox is, you have to go last. Like you're very slow, so you always strike last. But Chalkox's counter to that is he makes everybody slow. So instead of it being that Chalkox goes last, instead it's, oh, Chalkox strikes simultaneously with you, even if you're normally like an insanely fast character like an elf. And then to make matters worse, his other special rules are that he would negate any rules that your magic weapon gave you. So like if you're like, oh, I'm Grimgor Ironhide, or I'm Tyrion, or Kolek Suneater, or Archaon, like any of these really cool characters who have these super kick-ass magic weapons, Chalkox is just like, no. You don't get your magic weapon. Screw you. You get nothing. Good day, sir. Which made him really difficult to deal with, because if you lost your magic weapons, he was kind of a pain in the ass to deal with at that point.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I see. Chalkox. Ask about Yellow Fang. Humans worship horned rat. I guess humans just worship anything nowadays, don't they?
Have you met humans?
I usually don't want to touch grass, so only through the interwebs. Yes.
It's like people in our world worship like the most bizarre crap in the universe. If gods actually existed, we'd be even weirder. Yeah, the Yellow Fang cult are humans. It's an empire cult of humans that worship the Great Horned Rat, and they like serve the Skaven.
God.
To be fair, though, the vast majority of them are people that were like raised by the Skaven as children. So like the Skaven like stole them away as babies and raised them as like slaves. Because what they'll do is they'll raise them as slaves and then they'll like re-release them into the Empire once they've been properly educated, yeah. And they act as like spies and informants and stuff. And others of the Yellow Fang cult are people that are like super desperate and end up falling under the influence of the Skaven for various reasons.
Save their own life, maybe. Yeah, okay, I see it.
It's like the vast majority of the Yellow Fang cult, you would not be like, oh wow, look at these like perfectly normal people hiding in plain sight as followers of the Skaven. The vast majority of them are not, shall we say, particularly they're very noticeable. You just wouldn't assume Skaven. You just assume, oh, this person has problems.
Okay. So it's like, you know, seeing a crazy person and knowing that they're a crazy person?
Yeah, like you see someone tweaking in an alley and you're like, oh man, that guy's been hitting the Reynolds Delight a little too hard.
Gotcha. I feel like most cultists for really any Chaos God or whatever would be pretty noticeable, just from their.
Well, I mean, a lot of them are very stealthy. Like they hide among society quite well.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I'm assuming like anybody who follows Tzeentch and like the Tzeentch cultists that sometimes show up in the Empire.
Yeah, I mean, if you play,
that was That's pretty annoying.
Yeah, if you play the so there's a really famous Warhammer Fantasy roleplay campaign. It's one of the most famous roleplay campaigns in the world. It's called The Enemy Within. And it dates back to the 80s, but it very recently got heavily revamped. And The Enemy Within it includes much more outside of just this particular topic, but it mostly addresses you play as a group of heroes who are dealing with a selection of Tzeentchian cults that have infiltrated the Empire. And it's lore accurate, and if you play through it, you get to see how the Empire that used to be around got made into the Empire that we all know and love from like Total War. Because when you play the game, you'll notice that Empire is very different from the Empire in Total War. Like, the provinces are different, there's different elector counts, and all this other stuff, and that's because they melded a couple of different editions together. But it makes for a really fun story, because you find out that in order to get the Empire that we have now, the Empire went through a civil war, and the civil war was mostly caused by the Tzeentch cults. Because they tried to destroy the Empire from within, which is why it's called The Enemy Within.
Gotcha.
Alright, I purged the elves.
Oh. Well, nobody liked those long ears anyways.
Yeah, the Lustria is knife ear free now. Just like the world should be.
Thank goodness.
It's a better place. It's a better place.
Victory. Oh, yeah, sure. Holy cannoli! Sack for 9,000? I'll take that.
Yeah, really, free money.
Yeah. I have 58,000 gold in the bank.
I mean, hey, if you want to send me another investment,
If you want to make another demand, I could give it to you.
Yeah, sure. I'll send over a bank statement. A PayPal request.
Yeah, I gotta send that PayPal request for collabing with me. Okay. Let's see. Did I? Primeval Roar. There we go. And here are negotiations.
We have so many enemies.
501? Sure.
Yeah,
on the diplomacy screen.
Yeah,
yeah.
The tithes are going up. All right, let's go. Let's go get my magic item.
Okay, that's more of a visual update. I believe before you could like be at war with so many factions that it just goes outside of the UI.
Well, I think they fixed that. I think.
Yeah. Think? Or you don't know. Well, at some point we might end up running into the bug. We'll see. Alright, what is this fight about?
So this is a recreation of the Battle of Walkmole Crater, which was a really famous battle where Tehinuin fought. He basically lured literally millions of Skaven from Clan Pestilence into this gigantic natural crater that was caused by like a meteor strike many thousands of years ago. And the Lizardmen basically came pouring out from the jungles all around and trapped all the Skaven in the crater and crushed them in this really big victory, and captured like tens of thousands of Skaven alive, and they were all ritually sacrificed to Sotek. And so many Skaven were ritually massacred that the Amazon River, which is the equivalent of the Amazon River in our world, ran red with blood for like days. Which, if you've seen the Amazon, it is gigantic. And the Warhammer version is even bigger because everything's bigger in Warhammer.
Yeah.
So the idea of it running red with blood is like insane.
Yeah. Chat says they kicked Skaven ass so hard they actually noticed the losses, which is really funny.
Yeah.
I see.
So
yeah, for that much blood makes sense.
Yeah, this particular quest battle is really funny because, like, basically, if you go look on the map in that big crater that's behind the Skaven army, if you go zoom in really close, you can actually see there's like swarms of snakes down there. Okay, I'm gonna put you in charge of. I'm gonna put you in charge
Maybe
of all the.
Pause first?
Nah, I'm fine. I'm gonna put you in charge of all the war beasts. If
Okay.
you would make sure they don't get caught by stuff and just go shoot lots of things.
Roger.
So I generally like to take out the army that's directly in front of us first, and then we'll deal with the side factions.
Okay.
Okay,
All
he's getting all nice and stacked in on himself, so I'm gonna say, bring out the big snake.
Oh, let's do this. Let's see it.
Big Daddy's hungry.
More accurate. Oh my god. Ooh, right through the middle. Very nice. Okay. So, Wurzag wants to know about Mandred Skaven Slayer. How did he get his nickname? I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory.
That I would say that's
Skaven Slayer though.
Mandred Skaven Slayer was one of the emperors of the Empire, and he is the man who is directly responsible for ending the Skaven War that was caused by the Black Plague. So the Skaven unleashed the Black Death or the Black Plague, and it was devastating. Depends on the writer, but many writers had it where it killed like 9 out of every 10 people in the Empire, or something like absolutely insane like that. You know, basically just wiped out the population. And
Gotcha.
he was a ruler in Middenheim, and he ended up rising up and leading the Empire against the Skaven, and ultimately was successful in defeating them. So he got known as Mandred Skaven Slayer because he beat the crap out of the Skaven and forced them back. But unfortunately for him, he was also like a really kick-ass emperor. Like, he was very, very good, but his reign didn't last for very long because the Skaven had him assassinated.
Oh, well,
or
of course.
the Council of 13 managed to assassinate him. And after he died, the Skaven went on a giant propaganda campaign by stealing or destroying all of the artifacts from that time period. And also, the Skaven use like a really big ritual every year that kind of obfuscates their existence, makes it like harder for people to remember things about the Skaven, and yada yada yada.
Oh,
and because of all that,
they have a ritual like that?
oh yeah.
What is it?
It's a big ritual that the Greyseer clan casts like every year, that makes it where people that know about the Skaven have a difficult time remembering a lot of like things about them, which it plays into a big aspect of the whole meme of like, oh, the Skaven aren't real and yada yada yada. A lot of that is that a portion of that is that ritual, though there are some funny notes in the lore about it's not exactly clear if the ritual actually does anything. The Skaven just think that it works. They believe earnestly that it works, and it could be that it does. Like the lore leaves it intentionally vague.
Gotcha.
So we don't know whether or not it actually plays a huge role, or if it's just that the Skaven think it does, but it actually doesn't do anything. There's no 100% clear answer.
Roger that. Okay, and what was the clan name again? I'm assuming they're like specialized in magic and stuff.
Greyseers. Just the Greyseer clan.
Oh, it was the Greyseers. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. Because the whole Skaven thing with the Empire, they kind of know about their existence, was also want to be hush-hush because, you know, panicking everybody doesn't really do anything.
So generally, the people who are, like, in the know are usually, like, the spy masters or really powerful wizards or various individuals who have, like, a lot of are like extremely powerful and on a need-to-know basis. But most people, the vast majority of people in the Empire, even people in power, have no idea what the Skaven are, and don't know they exist. Their knowledge is kept really, really hush-hush. And it's a mix of, some people believe that it's better for nobody to know because, you know, if everybody knew, there might be mass panic at like, hey, there's a giant nation of technologically advanced uber rats that are surprisingly well organized living beneath us who have better technology than we do. And they could, you know, rise up at any moment and eat us all. And the other aspect of it is the very, very, very smart people have realized very correctly that if the Skaven were to believe that everybody knew they existed and might organize against them, that the Skaven might get organized out of, like, fear, essentially.
Which is a very bad thing.
Yeah, that could be like an end of the world scenario. If the
it's like the end times, yeah, pretty much.
Where if the Skaven all unify against the world above them, everybody would be basically boned. The world relies very heavily on the Skaven constantly infighting and not being able to organize.
Yeah. One of the biggest undercities is in Altdorf, the capital.
Yeah, Under Altdorf is its literal name to Skaven. But Under Altdorf is absolutely massive. Though it was much bigger before Thanquol accidentally destroyed a massive portion of it.
Oh, of course he did. It's Thanquol.
Yeah, because Thanquol ended up blowing up a really powerful magical artifact that caused a giant flood that obliterated a good portion of the city.
Perfect. Thank you, Thanquol. The Slan mages were right to let you go.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
Alright. Recent Lorebeards episode. Do you know about the first ever queen and Durthu's relationship? I'm not privy to the drama that goes on in those woods. But
yeah, that. So one of the how do I? So
okay.
One of the things that Andy and I talk about a lot is that, I mean, Lorebeards, generally speaking, as a show, is about exploring the lore from a perspective of, like, knowing all of the lore, which changes a lot of the ways you can look at it. Because, generally speaking, when a lot of the writers at Games Workshop would write for the lore, they don't know a lot of the background. They would just write, like, whatever. Like, Games Workshop would be like, all right, here's the important information, just write. As opposed to making sure they did, like, a lot of background research. And also, on top of that, ultimately, a lot of the lore was usually written from a perspective of, like, well, we just want to sell minis, and we're just going to write about this, like, relevant thing, as opposed to, like, actual world building. And,
I see.
And also that, Andy very much, which I like that he does this, and I'm a very big proponent of it, that Andy tries to approach the Warhammer world from a very, like, realistic understanding of what it would actually be like, which means that there's a lot more aspects of, like, relationships, and, like, people struggling with normal things like addictions and relationships and sex and a lot more, like, adult themes that actually motivate people. Also, when you look, like, deep into the lore, there's a lot of topics that are, like, briefly mentioned and then just kind of, like, thrown away and not really talked about ever again. And, like, some major topics are things like that a lot of the people in elves in Warhammer have a much more casual relationship with, like, sex as a concept than, like, humans do per se, where humans can be kind of squeamish about it or have a lot of, like, rules about it. And elves are kind of like, yeah, no, we don't need to bother with any of that. Because they're like, we don't fucking care, and we also live for thousands of years, and they also don't deal with a lot of the biological issues that humans do. But then you have things like spirits, which spirits, there are a lot of different kinds of spirits in the Warhammer world. From, like, forest spirits, like dryads and tree men, like Durthu, etc., etc., to spirits of the water, like naiads, to demons, which are you could view as kinds of spirits and stuff like that. So because you have all these different like spirits and things running around, you have situations where one of the things that's established about spirits that not a lot of people know is that when you look at Durthu or Drycha, that's not what they actually look like most of the time, or like when they want to. What you're seeing is what's called their war aspect. So when they are about to fight somebody, or they're about to kill somebody, or whatever, they will take on a form.
A big tree?
Yeah, they will take on a form that's designed for battle. So it's made of like, you know, they will have the appearance of these big trees, because what they're actually doing is that they're hardening. They're like either they're taking on the form of these like gnarled trees that are super fucking scary looking, and their flesh is like harder than iron, and they can like impale you with their branches, and they have all these other things. But the other aspect of it is that they can change form to different other aspects, so to speak. So you have things like there's a story. Oh god, I can't remember the name of the book. I want to say it's like, it might be like Lord of the Forest or something like that, but there's a story about like a Brettonian, or no, I'm thinking of Grail Knight. There's a story by, I think it's Anthony Reynolds, yeah, called Grail Knight, where a Knight of Bretonnia goes into Athelloren and has to deal with all this crazy crap. And as part of his story, he ends up dealing with Drycha. And when Drycha appears in that story, a lot of the times where she appears, she's like this extremely beautiful, like voluptuous, gorgeous woman, because she's attempting to tempt him into being distracted by her sexiness to not do what he's trying to do. And the thing is, it's not a glamour, it's what she actually looks like in that aspect. And then when he inevitably pisses her off, she turns into her war aspect, where she becomes like super fucking scary. So Andy very correctly talked about how Durthu would be the same. Durthu would have an aspect where he would take on another form, and he would not be the giant, angry, pissed off tree man, especially way back before he got all messed up, like he is now. And so the idea was posited that oh, sorry, can you still hear me? Yeah. So the idea was posited that maybe the Everqueen back then had Durthu as one of her lovers, which is extremely possible, and something that we talked about a fair bit, because elves having spirits as lovers is also a established trope. Like there are elves who have had like been lovers or even been married to like spirits of the rivers or spirits of the mountains, spirits of the forests, and like it's like Durthu's literally just another one of those. But when we say that, there is a notable portion of the audience whose brains cannot help themselves but to go, someone was porking that giant pissed off tree, and it's like, no, that's not what we're saying. Like, I could see how you think that's what we're saying, but that's not what we're saying, because he would not have looked like that.
Gotcha. So that's what that's about.
So
I would assume that there's probably no illustrations of their other forms, because it's not very well known.
No, and it's also, you know, they aren't selling those as minis, so why would they do that, you know?
Yeah.
Time to go wake up Lord Croak.
Oh, okay, let's go. Should be a simple battle.
Oh yeah, especially because I have my orbital space laser now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's right. I don't know how you could look at the orbital space laser and not say that it's like the coolest thing ever.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Why is the 5th Gotrek and Felix book called Beast Slayer when they already beat Invasion of Beastmen and Skaven Slayer? Haha.
Oh my, chat.
Haha. Inquisitor. Haha. Skaven infighting, Greenskin infighting, saving the world one backstab at a time.
Can you also check which source mentions the tree man transforming? Because I only recall the tree man being in various wood-like states rather than somebody who ever had a human-like form.
If you go read, I want to say if you pop into the Wood Elves 8th edition army book, it, I believe, will have some mentions in the Dryad and Treeman sections that talks about that it is a war. I'd have to double check, that it's a war aspect, not like their true forms. And then if you go explore the 2nd edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Bestiary books, I want to say it's the companion book that details the creatures of Athel Loren, talks very significantly about their various aspects. And you'll also find those details within the Wolfrup Companion 2nd edition book on naiads and other creatures as well, where it deliberately will mention things like that if they're in one aspect, they'll appear one way, whereas if they're in their other aspect, it'll appear another way. But you'll have some further major notes on, like when you're dealing with like spites, where the spites of the forest are the exact same way. They're forest spirits. So they're able to shapeshift and take whatever forms that they want. Now, how they present themselves when you see them depends. But creatures like anything that is considered like a spirit very, very rarely has one canonical form. Even when you deal with demons, so like the demons of chaos, a lot of the time they do not have a singular form. Now they're represented by tabletop minis, so in that sense they have singular forms. But like if you read novels or further explorations of the creatures, most of the time it'll say that their true forms are like beyond our understanding. And if you were to go into the realm of chaos, you would witness their true forms. But when they come into reality, they basically have to live by the laws of reality. And so they have forms given, their forms will end up manifesting based kind of on the imagination of living creatures. So the identities that they end up taking, like what makes a bloodletter or a demonette, has more to do with how we perceive them as opposed to what they actually are. If you want a good example of this, if you actually go read the it would be the Tyrion and Teclis. If you go read the Tyrion and Teclis omnibus, there's a scene where you get to see Nakari from Nakari's perspective in the realm of chaos, and it talks about how Nakari is not what you see him as in like the art or the tabletop game or Total War. That's just a aspect of him. Actual Nakari is like infinitely larger than that and infinitely more than that. But when he comes into the Warhammer world, he, like reality, the mortal realms, he has to be kind of like compressed. So kind of think of it as like when you're dealing with like a file on a PC, you can't often like move or send the file in like its true form. You have to compress it into something smaller and more scrunchy for it to be able to fit. And that's kind of what the Warhammer world does to a lot of entities that come out of the realm of chaos. Morgur's the same way. Morgur is significantly more than just a beastman. Even an unbreakable, horrifying beastman that like warps reality around him. He's so much more than that. But when he comes to the Warhammer world, he gets scrunched into that beastman-like body so that he can functionally fit.
Gotcha. I see. So for, I guess you could say for most of Chaos, essentially, they're not how we actually see them. It's more like how we, I guess, think that they are, and so that's how we end up.
Only if you're dealing with a spiritual entity or an etheric entity. Actually, would be the better terminology. An etheric entity. So like a demon.
Okay.
Or something that originates from the realm of chaos / the ether / the warp. If you're dealing with like a warrior of chaos, no, he's exactly what he looks like because he is a physical thing.
So like Archaon looks like Archaon.
Yeah, Archaon looks exactly like what he looks like on the tin.
Jake Kriziak cheered. X100.
Oh, here
So
comes
you
the
are
second
telling
wave.
me Gugarth is fatter than he already is?
Alright.
Sure.
Actually, I've been meaning to ask you. I think... Oh yeah, you did react to the Skull showcase. Was there anything exciting there for you, in particular?
I mean, Karanak was cool. I'm really excited for Karanak.
Yeah.
Mechanicus 2 is also gonna probably be pretty goated. The fact that you can play as the Necrons, I am so in.
Yeah.
I'm so in.
Dude, it's gonna be so cool, like, seeing all the upgrade stuff. I don't know enough about the lore to even, like, theorize about what their tech trees are gonna be like, but I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with it.
Yeah, because, like, I don't hate 40k as a universe, I just hate Space Marines. Well, I just hate the Imperium. So, like, if I get to play as someone
like
that's kicking... If I get to kick the Imperium's, like, face in through their butts, then I will happily embrace the setting.
And yeah, perfect time to play Necrons. Oh, it would be so cool if there was like a versus mode, like an online versus mode.
I'd be shocked if there
Necrons
isn't. Like, if
versus,
you're gonna be able to play as both factions, it'd be foolish of them not to have a multiplayer mode.
Right? Dude.
I mean, they might not, because, you know,
kind of
sometimes game developers do silly things. But, I mean, considering
how... It would be a massively missed opportunity, too.
Yeah. I suspect they'll have it, but we'll have to see.
That's some massive blob of units. Let's move up.
If you could focus the Salamanders on the Hell Pit Abominations, so like this one, that would be grand. Because they have good anti-large, and they also deal fire damage, which will mess him up pretty good.
Roger that.
We're drowning the rats.
Uh-oh. Gotta pull back from that. Rat ogres do be charging.
No, I misclicked. Stop. Ooh, okay, good. I was able to cancel it.
Ooh. Run! Run for your lives!
Scar veteran's on his way to save the day.
Nice. It is super useful that like one unit can actually hold an entire squad.
I mean, it's a big fuck off dinosaur. You better be able to.
Ah, God. Yeah, probably don't go into melee against a Helmet Abomination. I don't think Salamanders win that.
No. Though he is pretty low. But he's also a Hell Pit, so knowing our luck, he'll get his stupid bullshit too horrible to die roll.
A massive regen or pop another squad down.
Yeah, that actually is such a garble rule to deal with in tabletop. Because it's not that he gets a boost of health when he's at low health, it's that when the model dies, it rolls and it has like a 1 in 3 chance that it just comes back to life. Which is
1 in 3 chance?
Yeah, which is sucks.
Yeah. That's quite a bit. I don't know. I would have thought it'd be like at least like a 1 in 5, 1 in 6. But I guess maybe it gets offset by the point cost.
No, not really. It's just a bullshit rule. The Hell Pit's point cost is offset by the fact that it does obscene damage and it's got regen, so it's really hard to kill anyway.
Oh god.
Alright, I'm gonna start advancing really hard towards the edge of the map because the last wave is about to show up, and it's the Scryer wave, so I want to be up in their face.
Oh, I see. They're all divided into different clans. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
So tech.
Move forward. Ask Tech about the gnomes? Are they different? Well, I mean...
Ooh!
I don't think they're in the
that
game,
was a good
are they?
one! All those
Nice.
storm vermin are gone. Look at all the corpses
Oh,
just
weapon
lying
teams will
around on the
front
ground. Dead rats everywhere. Oh, it's beautiful.
Let's go this way. Classic Skaven victory. Alright, you guys can move forward.
Does Warhammer use D6s? The tabletop game does, yes. Yeah, you use a lot of D6s.
Yo. Pretty sure you only use a D6, right?
Yes. Even the other dice you use is just like a D6 in a different form. So like a D3 would be that you roll a D6, but just a 1 or a 2 is a 1, a 3 or 4 is a 2, and a 5, 6 is a 3. Or like a scatter die is a 6-sided die that has arrows on each side. Well, not on each side. It has arrows on, I think, 4 sides, and then a hit on 2 sides. Which a hit usually means like, oh, you just got a direct hit, so you don't scatter. Or an artillery die is that instead of it being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 misfire. So when you roll like a catapult shot, you would roll a scatter die and an artillery die to represent like the shot going in the air and the wind and stuff having an impact on it, or the fact that the crew isn't precise enough. So like you'd roll both dice and you'd get like, oh, if you got a 2 and then an arrow, you would move the shot 2 inches from where you were aiming in the direction of the arrow. But if you misfired, then something bad would happen and you'd have to figure out like what the misfire result was. Or if you were lucky, you would roll a hit and then the artillery die would not be a misfire. So if it was like an 8 and a hit, that meant that you got to ignore the number die because you got a direct hit.
Gotcha. Okay. And there they go. I guess, oh, they still have this one Doom Wheel. Let's focus on that. But yeah, Chad is talking about gnomes in Warhammer Fantasy. Apparently they're kind of just forgotten about. What's the deal with that?
They got brought back super recently. So like, the gnomes originated from like really early Warhammer. I like how Lord Croak hasn't even actually woken up yet and we've already won the battle.
We're already done with the battle, yeah.
Like, dude's still asleep. But the gnomes are super duper duper old. I want to say they originated in like 1st edition. But like 3rd edition was the last edition. Was it 3rd? 5th or 3rd? It might have been 5th. But like if you go way back, the gnomes were, if you took a dwarf army, you could take gnomes as your wizards. And then as the editions evolved, eventually Games Workshop got rid of the gnomes because they thought gnomes were stupid and they didn't want to deal with them. So they just threw them in the trash. But
poor guys.
In the last few years, the roleplay game, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition, brought the gnomes back. They brought them back in a book called Rough Days and Hard Nights. And then once the gnomes got back in that book, which Andy Law did a lot of the writing for that, or he was in charge of bringing them back and leading the charge on that. So when the gnomes came back, they got a bunch of new lore and they got rewritten. And it explained like why they weren't around that often is because a lot of them had been like wiped out, and the ones, and they're very heavily infused with the spirit of Olgu, which is the lore of Shadow. So the whole idea is that like, oh, they're really difficult to detect because they're infused with Shadow, which makes them like very good at being obfuscated and difficult to sense and or see and stuff like that, which adds up. They're actually a really, really fun race. They were developed into something really fun and exciting. But at the time, when that happened, everyone was kind of like, oh, cool, like they're in the roleplay game. That's really exciting. Too bad it doesn't really like mean anything for the wider tabletop, but you know, at least that's cool. And then Games Workshop came out of like nowhere a couple of years later, fairly recently, I think in just the last less than the last year, and was like, hey, gnomes are in Blood Bowl now. And that was actually a huge deal because the roleplay game is technically canon, but it's also technically not Games Workshop. It's like other companies always run the roleplay game for them. So like in the case of 4th edition, it was run by a company called Cubicle 7. Or is run by a company called Cubicle 7. So like it would be very easy for Games Workshop to be like, oh well, that's not canon, that's just Cubicle 7 being weird. But because Games Workshop officially acknowledged them by being like, oh look, we brought the gnomes back to frickin' Blood Bowl, everyone was like, oh shit, like, alright, gnomes are a thing now, like, gnomes are actually happening. Which was super exciting, because it was like a race being brought back that a lot of people genuinely, very strongly, and understandably believed were just never going to be a thing ever again.
Yeah. I
so
see.
It was a pretty so there's been a lot of fun and excitement about that, because a unit like that coming back is exceptionally rare, or a race, I should say, especially gnomes, because a lot of people, especially because of like modern day stuff like World of Warcraft and things like that, if you bring up the concept of gnomes, a lot of people's basic reaction is to roll their eyes into the back of their head and be like, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Get it on my face.
Oh no. Well, what happened with World of Warcraft there?
Well, it's just, the gnomes they're very goofy. Like, a lot of people find them very annoying, or they're very goofy, or they're just, a lot of people just can't take them seriously.
Okay, gotcha. Non-aggression with call friends? Yeah, sure. Blood Bowl is the true ending of the old world?
No.
I think Blood Bowl's canon is a completely different lore, right?
It is. It's
like
it's a completely different universe, though it is super funny. Oh, you want to see something really funny?
Oh, okay. What's
we got an ambush on Albrick, and I still have my big Sotek ability, so we're just gonna hide and just unleash the Sotek power to just go straight down the ambush line. And we're gonna see how much damage it does.
Oh no. They're all walking in a straight line. Oh.
What happens when you walk directly into a serpent god's mouth? What will be the results? Let's find out. And we're just gonna hide, so he just has to keep walking in a line, because he can't break out of ambush until he sees us.
Oh, that's unfortunate. All you need is to look at the Blood Bowl orc cheerleaders. I've seen some of the funny ones. Actually, the orc cheerleaders are horrific.
Yes, yes, they are.
I wish I hadn't seen them.
they are a very interesting. They're a very interesting creation.
Albrecht is on a flying mount. There's kind of a little.
He's kind of, yeah. It's like A, he's coming down a bend, and B, he's like pretty close to the exit zone.
Yeah.
So I think we will just outright attack him, even though it's not as fun.
Is this random? Because like they start very close to the exit for an ambush.
I don't know how the game determines like where to put them, especially because ambushes have been kind of squiggly over the years. Like, it used to be that they would be heading towards the wrong side. Like, now at least you head towards the exit, which is what you're supposed to do. It used to not be that way. It used to be that your guys would be heading towards the other
away
direction.
From the exit?
Yeah, it would be backwards. That was super annoying for a while, but they finally fixed it. Okay, he's got a ton of knights, so it's gonna be better for us to fight him in the forest. So I guess we'll just hang out in this forest by the exit.
Okay. We can just chill.
I just gotta zoom in enough that I can see inside the damn trees.
Yeah, let me see. There should be an option that kind of helps, but like...
If you hold down spacebar...
Yeah, it is on.
It like, makes it a little better, but not really.
Yeah, it gets rid of some of the leaves, but still.
Yeah.
Kind of difficult.
Well, if you have hide foliage, it'll like completely get rid of all the leaves. So like it does make it a lot better, but it's still not like perfect because it does leave all the actual like trees.
Yeah, the trees are still there, which.
And you have to be rather zoomed in as well.
I can say, as a potato PC user, the hide foliage does not help on the lowest possible graphics settings for some reason.
I believe
because it just shows like a really low res texture of the leaves that still blocks view. I could see more on ultra settings than I do on the lowest. Ugh.
Alright, I'm gonna put you in charge of... Let's see, why don't we do... If you can handle these guys and try to keep them just shooting while a safe distance away from getting charged and stuff, that would be sweet.
I will try. They do have knights, so they will close the distance
Yeah,
quite fast.
just try and stay in the forest. That'll make it a lot easier. Alright, I imagine he's gonna see us pretty much immediately, but we're gonna wait and see.
This is actual Lizardmen tactics
Okay, he sees us
right
now.
here, bursting out the junk. Okay, oh god.
Yeah, because unfortunately a lot of my units can't hide because, you know, they're like flying or big monsters.
Big. Yeah.
But Albric is going to get bodied because I have the Colossodon Hunters and they are goated.
Colossodon Hunters.
They're the Regiment of Renowned Ripperdactyl Riders.
Ripperdactyls.
They deal so much damage to flying targets that it is just obscene. Though, Albric's actually
Salamanders.
beating them up on them pretty good.
Oh, I mean, since we're beating him up anyways, who's Albric in the lore? And what is he doing in Lustria?
Albric's kind of a nobody in the lore, to be honest. Like, he's mentioned, but he's kind of a Helman Gorst type situation, to be honest. Though, he at least is established in the setting, unlike Gorst, who's just kind of there. Albric de Bordelot is the Duke of, well, Bordelot. But the thing about him that's genuinely interesting, and I think why they chose him, is that he is, unlike many of the Dukes, who are like all these super legendary... Whoop! I accidentally ran over one of my own skanks. My bad. Unlike most of them who are all these like super legendary, badass, uber god knight people of the lady, Albric never got to go on the Grail Quest. He wanted to go on the Grail Quest, but due to the situation of Bordelot, which was that like his father, if I remember right, his father died notably young, so he had to kind of take over Aquitaine much earlier than he wanted to, where like a lot of his fellow dukes, like their fathers lived to reasonably good ages, or like they were given the dukedom at an appropriate age at least, so they got to go off and do their Grail Quest. He didn't. He was like stuck at home because somebody needed to manage the kingdom, so he got sent off to go he had to deal with, you know, actually ruling instead of getting to essentially go off to party and like go on an epic quest to seek the Grail. So he never got to take the Grail vow, because if he had done so, he basically would have been giving up control of his dukedom, and his family would have lost control, and he, you know, it would have been like given to somebody else, and he just couldn't allow that. So he stayed home, and he's notably as a character rather bitter about that he didn't really get to go out and live this kind of universal experience that you tend to see among the dukes. So because of that, he has a very unique perspective where he is always eager and looking for an opportunity to like prove himself to the Lady of the Lake by defeating some great monster or pulling off some amazing thing, but he spends a lot of his time just dealing with life in Bordello and being from most sources, being a pretty decent dude, but just not a very exciting one. Like the only real big note about him in like the roleplay game, which tends to have a lot of the extra goodies, is that unfortunately one of the things that he's known for and he gets mocked for a lot in Brettonian is that there was an incident where there was like a festival for like a certain yearly thing, and during the festival a group of peasants got like absolutely fucking smashed, like they got beyond drunk. And it ended up because of their inebriated state, they ended up getting a little too rowdy during a part of the festival where like there was like a play or something going on, and it ended up causing like a riot, and it led to a full-on like peasant rebellion. So like the peasants started like rebelling against the nobles because everything got so out of hand, and it ended up resulting in like a lot of peasants getting killed. And it was like a super public affair, so it made Albrecht look really bad. So a lot of people talk shit about him behind his back about the fact that he can't control his peasants.
Bruh. And not being able to control your peasants in Brettonian society is like, yeah,
you can't control your poor people.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Not fit to be a noble.
And that's really all he's known for. Like, if you were to delve in deep to the lore, which Total War kind of explores a little bit, he would actually be a really interesting character, because being from Bordello, he has a unique relationship with the gods, because while he does worship the lady, and she's considered a very important god, instead of being the most important god, she's considered equally important with Manon, the god of the sea, because Bordello is almost entirely coastal. And they rely very heavily on the sea, and that's why like Albrecht wields, as the magic item they gave him in Total War is Manon's trident. And why he wields a trident is because he has a really important relationship with Manon. Okay. Now that being said, he catches a lot of flack from the community, and I agree with it. And it gets called Albrecht le Générique, or Albrecht the Generic, because unfortunately, despite the fact that Total War made him, once again, this was back in Warhammer 1 when Creative Assembly had much lesser ambitions. Albrecht was a bonus legendary lord that got added to Brettonian alongside King Lewin and the Fey Enchantress, and because he didn't have an official piece of art or anything like that, instead of making like an actual unique model for him, they just didn't.
They used a Grail Knight.
So his face is just a regular Brettonian lord. Like, he just looks like a generic lord. His helmet, though, is unique. So he has a unique helmet, which is how you can tell him apart from other characters. But in his original model, he was literally just a generic lord. Eventually, they gave him a fancy helmet when Brettonian became playable to make him stand out. And then after he was made, but he just had like a sword and he was really boring. The community had to, which it was super annoying, we had to campaign for years to bully CA into giving him his trident, which eventually worked. So he finally like actually got a trident, because he used to just wield a sword and they were like, oh yeah, he has a trident, but he doesn't actually like hold it. So now he actually has his trident.
Come on. Yeah, trident's such a cool weapon too. It's like such a unique thing that not many people use. You might as well give it to the guy who actually uses it in the lore. But
but he still unfortunately has a generic face, which that ultimately doesn't really matter because he never takes his helmet off, so I don't really care about that. But the real bitch is that he has a generic voice actor. So Albrecht does not actually have a unique voice. So when you are using him in campaign, or you use him, or you like talk to him in the diplomacy screen, he doesn't have any unique dialogue, and he doesn't have a unique voice at all, because he's just a regular Brettonian lord. So he's kind of up there with Throg in that a lot of people are like fine with his design, but they want him to be they want him to get a new voice actor, or like a redone voicing. Are you loading in, or did it freeze?
Stuck on pending action.
Ah, interesting. I'm stuck waiting for other players to finish loading.
Interesting. Is multiplayer broken at the end of the battle yet again?
It could be. Like, I have animations and stuff playing. It's just that my waiting...
Yeah, same here.
...is just sitting here. Okay,
I'm also waiting for you to finish the post-battle options.
Okay, I think it's stuck.
It's over, my dudes.
Yeah, I'll just shut that down real quick.
Okay, same here.
And then we'll just load back into it. Though the good news is, I think I quick saved it. Oh no, okay, there. Okay, as soon as you left, it fixed itself. Oh, good God, stupid garbage game.
It's such a good game when it works.
Yeah, when it works. Well, it's just the multiplayer a lot of the time.
Yeah. Haven't run into any problems.
Oh, nice. I did quick save right before that fight, and I'll just auto resolve it. I just want to.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, we'll lose literally 0 time, so that's good.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get the Sotek spell off, but yeah, it wasn't gonna work anyways.
Well, I did use it, but I ended up not hitting as many units as I would have liked, and I also hit one of my own units, which was a big oops.
Well, maybe they were glad to be food for the snake god.
I mean, I don't think they would complain about it, but I don't think they would be glad about it.
Alright.
It's back up.
Roger. Waiting, refreshing. There it is. Ready. Cool. I don't have to download anything anymore.
Yeah, you just need the file.
Oh yeah, no. It's because I got a new PC, so yeah, I didn't have the file. Gotcha. The Red Duke isn't even playable despite having special abilities. Who is the Red Duke?
The Red Duke is a super duper important vampire count character. He's the big bad vampire count, essentially, for Brettonian, because he was a Brettonian Duke of the Kingdom of Aquitaine that got turned into a vampire count got turned into a vampire against his will by Abarash, the founder of the Blood Dragons.
Okay.
And he has the same situation as Boris Todbringer, where he has a completely unique model. He has a unique skill tree with unique abilities, but he does not have a unique voice actor, and he is currently not playable.
Gotcha.
You can confederate him, which if you confederate him, you get access to all of his like unique abilities and stuff. But obviously that's not the same. People very much want both of those characters to have playable campaigns. I am so fucking sick of this mutagenic energies. I hate this so much.
Oh.
Please hurry up and kill Zinch. Jesus.
I'm trying my best, man. Okay, I'll make that a priority. You guys get off my land. Get off my property. And you're gonna run, and I'm gonna catch you and make you into a burger. Tasty.
Yeah, the Red Duke is actually one of the few, like, not strictly playable characters in a lot of tabletop who had his own Black Library book purely about him. So he had his own dedicated story, and it's very good, but it is a bummer. Like, it is super sad.
Oh, I see.
because it
Also,
really delves
I mean-
hard into the trauma of like someone literally just being turned into a vampire completely against their own will, and it's really sad.
I think this has been explained to me before, but what exactly is a Black Library book, and how does that get differentiated from other books?
Yeah, so Black Library is the publishing arm of Games Workshop's storybooks, essentially. So the Black Library is responsible for like publishing the lore of Warhammer Fantasy and 40K and the Horus Heresy and like everything else. They only write novels though, or like novels, short stories, audiobooks, audio dramas. They don't publish rules and they don't publish minis. They only just write stories. And the way they essentially work is that they spend a lot of their time essentially hiring freelance authors who will come in and write books for them. So when people talk about the books, it's a habit of people will say like, oh, a Black Library novel, to make it clear that you're not talking about a book written by one of the other studios. Because like Forge World, for instance, published a lot of books that include a lot of rules, but also tell a lot of stories. Like the Tarmacon book is from Forge World, whereas the wait, does the Blade of Sotek not give me... Wait, what the heck? Blade of the Serpent's tongue. Oh, he starts with it. That's right. It doesn't give him poison? Oh, it gives... Oh, it does, but only in battle, because it's an ability. Okay. Oh, that's weird. All right. Anyway. Sorry, I got distracted. Dang it. I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
We were talking about Black Library books and publishing them.
Oh, right. So, the thing with the Black Library is that they just did like novels and all those kinds of things, whereas like if you were talking about like, oh, I want to talk about this book that was written for Warhammer Fantasy, you could be talking about the Army book. Like a lot of the lore that I talk about is from the Army books, which also included like rules for all of your minis and all this other random stuff. And then there were things like you might talk about the like the roleplay game, which the roleplay game is also by a completely different set of authors. Because the roleplay game was mostly focused around, depending on which edition, was written by different publishing companies. So whenever you're talking about all these different things, it usually helps to include notes about like, oh yeah, we're talking about a book by such and such company, to kind of help narrow down like what exactly the purpose of the book was.
I see. So that's why you gotta add that on. Gotcha. Chat wants me to ask about the fight between Marcus Wolfhart and Torox. I think other people were talking in chat as well that it was a very clean fight that ended very quickly. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there's like a lot to say. Marcus Wolfhart was present in the end times at the Battle of Altdorf, or I should say the Fall of Altdorf, which was this big epic battle that ends with Altdorf being essentially destroyed. Like they win, but even though they win, the city gets like so horribly hammered by the forces of Nurgle that like it's like, oh yeah, we won, and then like you look behind them and like everything's on fire. So like, yeah, you technically won, but like, you know, there's not really much left. At what cost? And so during the fight, pretty early on actually in the fight, when the Beastmen are the forces of chaos, which have Beastmen as part of it, they're essentially trying to break into Altdorf and break through the gates and stuff. And Tarax the Brass Bull shows up alongside the Beastmen forces and is like this unstoppable juggernaut.
And pretty quickly, he gets spied out by Marcus Wolfhard, and Marcus Wolfhard just shoots him in the throat and kills him because Tarx has that really big weak spot that is really difficult to hit because he's constantly on the move, and like any other part of his body is, from a lore standpoint, is like indestructible. So Wolfhard, being like the super badass uber archer that he is, just snipes him in the throat and kills him.
Well, Torox's lord, how did he get that kind of body in the first place? Because that's very different from the other beastmen, yeah?
Yeah, it was a gift from Khorne. So Torox went on... Torox was always kind of like a big bloodthirsty maniac, but he went on one especially massive rampage where he slaughtered so many people, and I think like humans, beastmen, dwarves, like just literally anything he ran across. He just went into this big frenzy where he killed everything that he could find, and he literally fought until he died. Like, he fought until he died from exhaustion. Like, he killed so many people that there was like a river of blood running like down this trail in the forest because he murdered so many freaking people. And Khorne was like, wow, that's really impressive. So Khorne sent a herald to Torox, who like essentially like healed him and also gave him, and was like, hey, Khorne thinks you're really fucking cool and awesome. And as Torox was getting up, Torox, being Torox, instead of being like, oh my god, it's like a representative of my god, like I should be really like, I should like be like, oh my god, you're like a representative of Khorne himself, I should be really respectful and whatever. Torox gets up, and the first thing that he does is he bites the Herald of Khorne's head off. He just kills it. Which Khorne probably thought was Khorne probably thought was hilarious, but the demon did not think it was very funny. So instead,
for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so the demon does what he's supposed to do, of that he gives Torox the blessing of Khorne, which mutates Torox until all of his skin becomes made out of this impenetrable brass. But the demon, out of spite, purposefully leaves a flaw at the base of Torox's throat that, if anybody were to hit him there, would essentially just insta-kill him.
But he's not aware of it, right?
Well, he's aware of it, but Torox isn't really like the thinking type.
Yeah.
He just kind of goes.
I see. So it's basically just his Achilles heel, probably based off of that.
Torox is essentially your Achilles trope character.
Gotcha.
I would say that is a very accurate way to perceive him.
Brohald Demon Tamer. We can do this.
What did Grimgor and the other orcs think of Wurzag? All greenskins. All greenskins find Wurzag.
Flaming Chicken Man will be dead in like 20 turns.
20? Good lord.
I mean, this man's everywhere.
That's true.
He's probably got the entirety of the south here, and all the high elves down here are dead. Who starts here? Teclis? Teclis is dead.
Oh, and like, so, yeah. Well, Teclis is usually like more up here. I mean, he might be dead, but he's a little further up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's usually where I see Skaven, though.
Yeah, but Teclis is over there, I think. Isn't that? I think that's right.
I always see him start in the Fortress of Dawn.
Maybe he does start in the Fortress. I might be thinking of his old start position. Oh yeah, that was his old start position.
Lunar Occupy. There we go.
Because I'm thinking of the I was thinking of the Immortal Empires movie or video that they put out that like shows everyone's start positions, but I forgot that Teclis got changed.
I see.
I'll tell you, that's a faction that I think heavily needs more goodies, are the basic high elf characters. Like the Lizardmen characters may not be super exciting, but a lot of their like abilities are really powerful. But like Tyrion and Teclis are not only boring, but also have terrible faction abilities, in my opinion.
Oh no, I have yet to play the High Elves, but I have heard people talking about how there should be like an update, maybe, or maybe in a.
I mean, some of the High Elf
game,
characters are like some of the High Elf characters are completely fine. There are some basic mechanics to the faction that need some updates. Like they have a diplomacy mechanic that it functions, but it's not super great. It could definitely use some tweaks to make it a little bit more exciting. Because it basically just allows you to manipulate the diplomacy of other races, but instead of it being like Zinch, where you're able to enforce specific like diplomacy acts, instead what you do is you just influence their diplomacy rating. So you're like, oh, you can make these two factions not like each other as much, or you can make these two factions like each other more. So you make them very friendly towards one another or really hate one another, but you can't actually like force them to do anything. Like you can't force them to do peace or force them to do war or force any kind of pacts. Where in Warhammer 3, they ran ahead with the idea that, okay, yeah, no, you should be able to force diplomacy. So for the High Elves, if I should say when they eventually hopefully give the High Elves their last DLC and give them an update, I would suspect that they're going to change their diplomacy system to where you can still influence like how much factions like one another, but I suspect they will also add the follow-up of oh, my stupid Bastillodon of Sotek is gonna die to attrition. Ugh. But I suspect they're gonna follow it up with like if you could manipulate factions into liking each other more, but you can also force them into certain kinds of diplomacy arrangements, because that would make those factions like a lot more interesting, or that mechanic, I should say.
Yeah. Because the mechanic that you described basically just sounds like Karl Franz's Imperial
Well, yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Karl Franz basically stole their mechanic. But Karl Franz at least has his
Empire update.
You know, he's at least got his Empire or his Elector or his Emperor edicts to make it, you know, a lot more interesting. Whereas the High Elves literally just have that other system. That's it. That's all they got. Which is pretty boring.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I think another issue I've seen with some campaigns is that their short campaign victory can be like very, very different in terms of difficulty to achieve. Like, I think Tyrion, he starts in Ulthuan, right? But he's gotta go and defeat Nagaron of all factions. Like,
well, yeah, some of them
they usually become a massive superpower.
They're very inconsistent. Where some of them are designed to be thematic, where others are designed to be like realistic to achieve. Where they're like, oh, like if you look at them, you can very quickly tell if they were designed from an idea of like, oh, who's like the nearby enemies to this faction that they need to beat, versus, oh, who's like the lore accurate enemy. Which when they do like the lore accurate enemy ones, those ones can be significantly harder to achieve. And are often like torturous because of that. Where it's like you have to jump through so many damn hoops in order to get them, which, you know, nobody wants to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, I think for the long
few
victories,
people achieve long campaign.
Yeah, like I can see for the long campaign, it's fine for them to be like, oh, we want them to be kind of like story accurate. Like, all right, fine. But I think the times where they're like, oh, we want to make it where it's like lore accurate for the short-term victory, and then in addition to that, it's also like extremely time-consuming. It's like nobody wants to deal with that crap.
I mean, it's kind of a shame. But I guess it's also part of the game's design, because when you do reach a certain point, it just doesn't become fun anymore, which is why there's so few people who actually get those achievements for long campaign victory.
Yeah, well, it's like a lot of them also haven't been reevaluated in a hot minute, where it's like, you know, Tyrion for his short-term objective, it would probably be more appropriate to say that, oh, he needs to wipe out, like, Count Noctilus and also any of the starting Dark Elf factions on Ulthuan itself. And then for his long-term victory, you go, okay, yeah, he also needs to defeat Malekith. Or, like, wipe Malekith out. Yeah. But, like, Malekith as a starting enemy is, like, that's just very time-intensive. Yeah, and Nakari, yeah. So, yeah, like, Nakari and Count Noctilus would be his good starting enemies.
That does make sense. Malekith as your starting enemy is, it's definitely a doozy.
He's just kind of a long way away.
My campaign. Yeah, there's that, but he always does very, very well. I don't know if it's because his auto-resolve is just good, but...
I mean, it depends. When you get into a campaign, there's a system that, like, essentially rolls a bunch of invisible dice to determine, like, which factions are going to do good and which factions are going to do poorly. That being said, depending on what character you're playing can influence it a bit. It just depends on some factors.
Gotcha.
There is a system behind it. I can't remember how it works off the top of my head, but they explained it at some random point. Why did I get rid of another unit when I don't have a good replacement? I guess I could put the Spirit of Tephok in this army, even though... Yeah, it's fine, actually.
Thanks for the super chat, Hammond. Ask what it would be like to be Morger's mom.
No, I don't think you want to ask that.
I'm pretty sure all the people in your chat just super chat mine in order to have me ask all the questions that they would never ask you or you would never answer normally. I feel like this is what these streams have devolved to.
As long as you're getting money for it. As long as they're being supportive. I mean, the simplest way I would say it is that, yeah, imagine if you had a baby who's in your body, whose whole gimmick is that when he's in existence, he super horribly mutates everything around him constantly without end until it's like a chaos spawn of like a horribly mutated beastman or just a corpse. Because Morger's an asshole, and whenever he dies, like his physical body is destroyed, he at some point in the very near future after that will essentially possess an unborn fetus and turn it into himself.
Yeah, I really don't want to think about it.
Yeah, it's not a good time. It is not a good time.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, Yuan Bo is along the coastline. I will have to rectify this.
Nah. Yuan Bo will rue the day he met his first Lizardmen.
I don't recall giving you a permit to be here, sir.
Okay, Skull Carver. Oh, the Slanesh faction is still alive? Okay.
Oh, Yibby, sorry. Hope Total War Warhammer 3 gets to collaborate with either Hunk... What? Okay, I'm gonna... Normally I don't read these out, where we both can hear it, but this one's a little special, so I feel like I have to. Hope Total War Warhammer 3 gets to collaborate with either Honkai Star Rail or Black Souls or Guardian Tales. Imagine the potential of Sunday, Little Princess, and Alice as legendary lords. What the fuck does any of that mean?
Okay, so You're not a gacha gamer, are you?
No, I respect my wallet so that it respects me in return.
Oh, well, thank goodness, man, that you don't understand any of that. It would appear the super chatter has fallen deep into the rabbit hole.
I'm vaguely aware of what Honkai Star Rail is. Like, I know it's a gacha game. I know that many of my VTuber friends have unhealthy relationships with it.
Yeah.
I buy Warhammer. Hey,
so.
That's not the same. Buying Warhammer stuff, at least worst case scenario, I could sell it. It retains value. I could sell it in the future if I needed to. You can't fucking gacha game stuff. That is a one-way ticket, which is it out of your wallet and into someone else's, never to return.
I suppose it depends on how you look at it. But yeah.
I mean, if it brings you happiness, by all means, you do you. But like,
yeah, for sure.
The gacha games are like, I don't know. No. I already have Warhammer as a hobby. I don't have the time or money to spend on other games like that.
Sell your gacha account by that logic. I mean, you could. There are some people who do that.
You could, but then you have to sell, like, all of it, and you're probably not going to get what you put into it back. Whereas, like, with Warhammer, I can just sell, like, a book, or some books, or some minis. Like, there are different elements of it I can sell, like things I just don't want anymore, but I can keep the rest of it.
Tic-Tac-Toe wants a military alliance.
Okay, do it.
Sure.
Ideally, we'll confederate the other Lizardmen factions.
Yeah, hopefully. Then we can all go on a crusade against the rest of the entire world. Shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah, I've already told my family if I die, just to sell all my Warhammer stuff. try and pay for my funeral that way.
Like, how much have you collected over the years, and like, what would it amount to?
I have no fucking idea. I'm pretty sure my book collection would be worth more than my mini collection, because I was not wealthy growing up, and so I collected a lot of Lizardmen, but I'm not one of the people that has like every single army. Like, I don't have like 10,000 points of every single army because I had to pay for, like, food. But there are...
Yeah, food does exist.
Yeah, there are... what was I going to say? I did actually used to have a lot more minis from, like, different ranges. Like, I had Tomb Kings, Dwarfs, Empire, and Orcs and Goblins, and Warriors of Chaos and Skaven. But when I was in college, to say that I was financially struggling is an understatement. So I ended up selling a lot of my models. That way I could afford, like, school. But if I were to sell all my books, I don't know, actually. Like, on one hand, I don't know. There might be people out there that are like, oh, it's Lore Master Sotek's personal books. I really want these for some reason. Or there may be people that look at them and are like, oh, these books have clearly been opened and used on a regular basis. Look how horrible that is. They're not collectors worthy. Like, they're garbage. So I don't know how I would evaluate people's value of the books. But I do have a fair number of, like, really rare books that I know some people would, like, I have, like, the Tarmacon book, which it sells for a horrific amount of money. Much to the irony, in many people's opinion, of that, when the book was actually, like, printing, it very quickly was selling for, like, dirt cheap, because not a lot of people were getting, like, the minis and stuff, so they were like, this book's clearly not going to be worth anything, whereas nowadays, like, you're lucky if you could find the book for, like, under $400. If you can even find it.
Gotcha.
Yo, Sotek, still doing our second What If You Were in the Warhammer Fantasy Scene to get a kick out of the Troll Country and help cleaning up a Chaos Raid and ambush. Oh! a cavalry charge and an organ gun. I mean, that'll get a shitload done. That will get a shitload done, my dude.
Oh yeah, I mean,
though troll country, that
too well.
You're probably going to need a lot more.
I mean, we are taking Kairos' home from him
to have any hope of clearing out troll country.
That way, anyways. Hopefully, he'll be alive when we get there. Sotek's teasing by not saying what book it is. Is it an Imperial armor? What is that?
Wait, what? what is chat lying about now?
They were referring to the book that you were talking about, that you have. Is it an Imperial armor? I don't know what that means.
I mean, I was just talking about Tarmakon, but like I have some other books that are also relatively rare. Like, yeah, so the book they're referring to is it's called oh my god, I can't remember what those books are called. They're called Uniforms and Heraldry. Yeah, Uniforms and Heraldry. Oh god, the most painful thing about Warhammer, honest to goodness, is that the people who were in charge of creating and writing the books, at Games Workshop were like full on hit their stride in 8th edition. Like they were just like so big brain and genius that they were creating literally the best books that we ever saw for the entire series, like Tarmakon, the Monstrous Arcanum, the Storm of Magic, and Uniforms and Heraldry, which Uniforms and Heraldry, along with many other books, was meant to be a brand new series that was going to bring a lot of cool new ideas and lore to Warhammer. And the Uniforms and Heraldry series was that they were these small books. They have a good amount of pages, but they're like physically rather small. Like they're half as big as what you would probably expect. That have a bunch of gorgeous artwork and really fun lore in them that talks all about how like the different factions are dressed or designed, because it's Uniforms and Heraldry, so it's literally like, oh, if you're playing like a Clan Skarier army, here's what all the different like units would look like in Clan Skarier colors, and here's some lore about like famous units that are part of Clan Skarier. And they also did like a bunch of minor Skaven clans, and the same thing for the Empire, where you had a bunch of Empire groups but also a bunch of like minor factions that aren't as well known. So they were really exciting books because you got to learn a lot of really cool lore tidbits. There were a lot of like what we understand as regiments of renown, and like a lot of the regiments of renown in Total War Warhammer for the Empire, the Skaven, and the High Elves all come from Uniforms and Heraldry, because that's how like influential the books were, and they had like beautiful art.
I see.
And we were supposed to get one for every single faction in the game, but unfortunately, like with several other book series, it never got finished because the end times happened. No! Tic-tac-toe! No!
Yeah. Kairos beat his ass.
Rip,
Kairos is waging war.
Well, that sounds like a you problem.
I'll get him in an ambush, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe he'll ambush me. There is that annoying thing with Kairos, right? Where he can
teleport
just,
stance.
Like, ambush you out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, teleport stance is that he can not only teleport to where you are, but if he teleports on top of you, it immediately counts as an ambush attack.
Oh, joy.
Yeah, it's super garbo, one might say.
Nice. Okay. Slowly approach this Prince of Apostles. Who is Smeargel? Smeargel? I have no idea. But thank you for the super chat, Hammond. As long as the visions of the old one mission is active, treasury minus 7,000. control -7 to all provinces. I mean, that's fine. Let's check our province control. That is not good.
We're going to war!
Okay, let's do this.
Excuse me. I
mean, you are cleaning up your side, but how many territories does Kairos have? Yeah, he has one all the way over on the east side, too, of the old world. Wait, is this the old world? I think so, yeah.
Distribute banners!
I'm being jumped? I'm pretty sure that's part of the Visions of the Old Ones mission. I'll have to go and deal with them. Where is he? Why am I even in the screen? Let me just click on him. It runs buttery smooth otherwise, but in multiplayer, I guess there is still some hiccups. Hyros has 17 settlements? This is not just gonna take me 20 turns.
Well, I'm not worried as much
and
about
he's still
Kairos.
going.
The faction that...
Oh, man.
Oh, wait, did... okay, you killed the... You killed the other guy. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Because if it's just Kairos, it's not nearly as bad.
Okay, well, I guess there's that. It's gonna be a long war, that's for sure.
Anywhere in the VTuber model for myself? Yeah, it's expensive.
All of my hero actions failing?
Something I would like to do at some point, but that is a long way away.
Alright, cool beans.
Because that would cost a shitload of money.
1 second.
Excuse me. Would it be a skink or a salon? Those would probably be like alternate modes for the character, but like the base character wouldn't be a Lizardman. It would be like I would want to go for something unique that has influence from the things I really love. Warhammer being a key part of that, but I wouldn't want to just make it a Warhammer character. In the event that like something ever did happen, where like GW would be like, oh hey, that's our IP.
Oh yeah, sure, I'm gonna do
give it back.
Oxyonal.
I would not even want to like give them the ability to claim any kind of relationship there. So I would be happy to have like, oh, like I have a skink or a croc score as like an alternate version.
I take out your army. I feel like you're strategically positioned there so you can retreat. Yeah, thought so. Well, not like you can run anywhere. Never mind. Die.
Would it be like your Arthur Lorebeards? There would be some similarities, but it would not be a dwarf. And there would be more references to other non-Warhammer things. Because, like, I love Warhammer, but it's not my entire identity. There are other universes and mediums that I enjoy as well.
See if Sota can convince you to react to Sigvald's magnificent speech. Isn't Sigvald the narcissist guy?
I mean, he is a narcissist. There's more to him than that, but yeah, that is one way to put it. Have you not seen his quest battle speech?
I have not. No.
He has a really famous one. It's quite good.
I see.
It's written in a very fun way. I don't want to spoil it though. Like I'll just say that at some point I would highly recommend you either play his campaign because it's actually a really good campaign, or you could also just look it up on YouTube and enjoy it with your chat. But he has his quest battle speeches are really funny.
Okay. Well, I guess that's something cool to look forward to. Well, you can definitely try out his campaign at some point. There's so many factions. I have no idea how I'm gonna get to all of them.
Yeah, we're almost to 100. We're nearly there.
Oh my god.
If the
how
rumors
many do we have in total?
I think we're at 96 or 97 right now.
Oh man.
The truly crazy part is that's just like playable factions, because I mean if you include like the Red Duke and Boris, that's another 2.
Oh, yeah.
They're just not playable, quote
would
unquote.
Potentially be added. Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the spoilers, but I heard about Cool's fate in the latest Dawnbreaker book. No, I haven't yet, and don't tell me. If you say, I will ban you. I would like to read it for myself. Thank you very much. Enemy failed to spot my ambush. If I auto-resolve, I lose a lot of guys, so I guess I'll fight this. Yeah,
we can fight it.
I know I can win it.
Yeah, that is not an army.
We're not
just a bunch of peasants.
We're not clearing Troll Country, but a Chaos Lord attack Kislev, got Butcher, now we're chasing. Oh, okay, you're okay. You're cleaning up a. Oh, that's what you said. I just misread it. You're cleaning up a Chaos Raid. Okay,
Although
yeah,
I've heard the Gate
perfect.
Masters are really good units.
Oh yeah, they're solid. The Cathay characters are all really, really good now. Cathay is so close to being like amazing. Like they're great, but they're so close to being like amazing. If they just like make Miao Ying and Zhao Ming's campaign mechanics a little more exciting, and also give like rework or make the caravans consistent with the Chaos Dwarf caravans, like as far as like how fun they are, and like the fact that you get like unique units and all the other stuff. If they like fix that element, then they're gonna be like an absolutely amazing campaign. Like they're already extremely good and really fun. It's just that the initial 2 characters are just a little samey. Like there's not really a lot of difference other than like just start positions between them.
Gotcha.
Here, why don't you be in charge of, if you will take these guys and you will just go run over anything and everything that's in front of you, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can just send them in.
Yeah, just go run shit over. That's all you gotta do.
Okay.
Just make sure to keep the chameleon stalkers with them so they keep their skink buff.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
Alright, here we go.
Let's go. Straight into the archers. Simar Gull appears in Battle for the Brazen Altar. Total Warhammer as a corn dog hero. Any lore?
No, not really. I think there might be a slight note about him. He appeared. Oh my god, I can't even remember where he appears in. I know he appears in somebody's campaign. I'm just struggling to remember which one it is. I want to say he appears in the intro campaign, or the prologue. He might be from something, but it's fairly minor.
Is there any lore on the new legendary hero that we're adding in?
Karanak? Oh yeah, there's a ton. Karanak is a very big deal, because he's Khorne's personal hunting hound. So his whole thing is that he hunts down individuals who have either insulted the blood god in some way, or who have proven to be... He basically hunts cowards. So the idea is that if somebody particularly insults Khorne, but like refuses to meet Khorne in open battle, Karanak hunts them down, and kills them, and then brings their skulls to Khorne. But a lot of the big things about him, I mean, the scary thing about him is his 3 heads, because they each have a purpose. They're not just there for aesthetics.
Ah, okay.
Because one of his heads can track his prey across space. So no matter where you go, it always can smell you and knows like where to go to get to you. So even if you were to like cross the entire world, or you were to go into like an alternate dimension, or you were to like do some other like really bizarre shenanigan, it would always know where you are, and is like heading towards your location. Another one of its heads tracks you through time, so it can always smell where you are in the time stream of the universe. So if you're like a wizard or a demon or some other creature that can move through time, even if you were to go back in time or you were to go forward in time, Karanak can smell you and he knows where you are and he can track you. So like he will follow you through time to wherever you escape to. And his last head can hunt you in the mindscape and can hunt you in your dreams. So anytime you fall asleep or meditate or do anything where you're like retreating into your own mind, you will find Karanak hunting you there as well. So like, so he's kind of a triple whammy of he'll exhaust you because he's constantly chasing you physically through physical space. So you're always running away from him and trying to get away from him. And then if you try and use time shenanigans to escape to like a different timeline, he will easily just follow you to wherever you go because he's a demon and time means nothing to him. And he can figure out which time you're in by just scent. And then furthermore, he can track you in your dreams. So while you're running away from him, doing any shenanigans possible to get away from him, anytime you get so tired that you fall asleep, he's there. And he's like Freddy Krueger, where if he kills you in your dreams, he'll literally kill you in real life.
Bruh. That is one effective hunting dog. No wonder why he's the favorite.
Oh yeah, yeah. He sits at the base of Khorne's throne, and whenever Khorne gets like skulls or trophies of people, and he thinks they're unworthy to be placed on the skull throne, he throws them to Karanak, who feasts on them instead.
Lovely. People in chat do be saying that Karanak in fantasy better than Karanak in 40k.
I mean,
do you
that
know
was
the difference there?
I don't know what Karanak in 40k is like. I just know what he does in fantasy. Oh, is this that same bug?
Again?
That's interesting. It seems to happen when we fight ambush battles.
An ambush battle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well.
Well.
I think,
yeah.
I guess maybe it's time to call it here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, although it's a bit of a lame duck to end it on, it actually is time for us to wrap up.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, you all had fun. Actually, I think I have the ability to save the game.
Oh, yeah,
oh no,
would
but I
be
think
very nice.
I think if I save it without you in it, it might cause an issue.
Oh, really? Oh, dang. Shouldn't have left.
Well, it wouldn't have moved forward unless you left. So it's fine. We'll just start at the next, with the autosave, which will be the end of the previous turn, which is totally fine.
Roger that.
All right. So thank you all for joining. Hope you had fun. Another week, another number of races purged from the world by the Lizardmen exterminators.
Slowly getting closer.
Probably not what the old ones had in mind, but you know what? They're not here to complain about it, so
it's our interpretation of it. Yeah.
The old the great plan can't fail if there's no one to mess it up.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, man. We'll catch you in the next one.
Yep, we'll see y'all next time. Twitch chat, I'm gonna send y'all to go watch Andy's Lawhammer stream. So have fun with that, because that's what I'm gonna go watch. So.
Hell yeah.
See y'all laters. Bye bye.
Bye bye.